Chapter 286. Tang Zheng revealed a smile that he thought was bright and sunny, but in the eyes of the three girls, it was extremely hateful. It was this person who had just opened the door and peeked at them. Before they could harshly complain, they saw Yi Dingdang come out from behind Tang Zheng's head. Yi Dingdang embarrassedly said, "Sorry, I was the one who opened the door. I didn't know the situation inside was like this." The three of them didn't know where to vent their anger, so they could only glare hatefully at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was very innocent. "I was wronged. Moreover, I really didn't see anything. It was 2F** king not worth it." Looking at his embarrassing appearance, Yi Dingdang couldn't help but want to laugh. Tang Zheng decided to leave this place first, so he put Yi Dingdang down and said, "I've already sent you here. I'll leave first. Sit for a while." Yi Dingdang urged him to stay. Tang Zheng didn't want to sit. Those three pairs of eyes wanted to kill him. He didn't dare to risk universal condemnation and immediately ran downstairs. It had to be said that birds of a feather flock together. Yi Dingdang's three roommates were indeed not bad looking. It just depended on whether or not the three brats in the dorm had the means to catch up with them. Yi Dingdang was helped into the room by her roommates. Then, the three of them looked at her with a smirk. One of them asked, "Dingdang, tell us honestly. What is your relationship with this handsome guy?" "Right, during the military training, rumors about the two of you were all over the place. This time, he was the one who carried you back to the dorm. If you say there's nothing between the two of you, we won't believe it." Another person agreed. "Dingdang, if you don't tell us the truth, then we were seen for nothing. I'm going to find this handsome guy to settle the score." Another person said slyly. Yi Dingdang looked at her three roommates and said naturally, "He and I are high school classmates." "You already know this. Then tell us what we don't know. Do you really like him?" Yi Dingdang revealed a smile and nodded. "I didn't think much of him before, but now I think he's getting more and more interesting." "Yo, a man's smell, right? Have you smelled it? You've been lying on his body for so long. Of course you've smelled it." Another person joked. "You bunch of perverts." Yi Dingdang rolled her eyes. "My relationship with him is still very pure." "That means in the future, you won't be pure." "But I don't think he's good enough for you." "Not good enough?" Yi Dingdang couldn't help but think of her parents' warning. They believed that Tang Zheng was definitely a rich husband, so how could he not be worthy of her? Moreover, Tang Zheng was indeed outstanding. He was so outstanding that she often felt ashamed of her inferiority. The others didn't know what she was thinking. Seeing her pondering, they advised, "Yeah, Dingdang, you're so outstanding. I'm afraid the number of people pursuing you will line up from our dormitory to the school gate. He's definitely not the most outstanding. Why should you consider him?" Yi Dingdang smiled mysteriously. "Maybe she's pleasing to the eye." "She's pleasing to the eye?" The three of them were incredulous. How could such an explanation work? "Well, don't talk about me. I haven't even started dating him yet." Yi Dingdang realized that she had a good impression of Tang Zheng, so she didn't hesitate. She was a woman who dared to love and hate. If she liked someone, she liked them. If she didn't, she didn't. "Let me tell you guys a piece of good news. Tang Zheng's dormitory wants to have a social gathering with our dormitory. Let's plan a time and have a meal together." "A social gathering?" "They're from the archaeology department." "Aren't they all nerds in the archaeology department? What's so interesting about that?" One of the fashionably dressed people curled his lips. "The archaeology department isn't full of nerds. There are many interesting people. I've interacted with the people in their dormitory, and I don't think they're stupid. So let's agree to it. Just treat it as making a few more friends." Yi Dingdang advised. "All right, Dingdang, for your sake, we'll agree to it. Actually, it's not bad if there's someone worthy of being friends with. At the very least, you have to take a liking to it first." Hee hee, that's right, this group of women had an unusually high standard. Tang Zheng walked out of the school gate and took the bus to Fengyang School. The capital was very big, and the traffic was very heavy. Fortunately, Tang Zheng changed to the subway and spent more than an hour to reach Fengyang School. The two of them had already contacted each other, so Fengyang was already waiting at the school gate. "Boss, I'm here." Fengyang waved his hands excitedly and shouted. Whiz! A white little guy turned into an afterimage and jumped into Tang Zheng's arms. Tang Zheng felt that he had been hit by a strong force. This little guy's strength seemed to have increased by quite a bit. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been knocked over by it. Squeak squeak. Xiaobai wriggled around in Tang Zheng's embrace and cried out non-stop, as if he was acting coquettishly. Tang Zheng stroked its snow-white fur, and it squinted its eyes in enjoyment. "Boss, I really missed you to death." Fengyang opened his arms to give Tang Zheng a big hug, but Xiaobai stood up straight and bared his teeth, as if he was not going to let him snatch Tang Zheng's embrace. Fengyang slammed on the brakes and stopped in his tracks, looking at it embarrassedly. Xiaobai proudly wagged its tail and kept acting coquettishly in Tang Zheng's arms, as if this was its privilege and it was not allowed to be invaded by others. Looking at the embarrassed Fengyang and the fear in the depths of his eyes, Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen to Xiaobai?" Squeak. Xiaobai seemed to understand Tang Zheng's words and shouted at Fengyang, as if he wanted to stop him from complaining. Seeing this, Tang Zheng quickly patted its head and reprimanded, "You dare to threaten others? You've really grown up, haven't you?" Little White hung its head dejectedly as it laid in Tang Zheng's embrace, looking like a little wife who had been wronged as it resentfully looked at him. Looking at its mischievous appearance, Tang Zheng could not help but want to laugh, but he still asked Fengyang what this little guy had done. Fengyang said hesitantly, "Boss, Xiaobai is not a puppy, right?" "It's not. As for what kind of beast it is, I don't know." Tang Zheng said honestly. Fengyang licked his lips and said, "Boss, it can breathe fire, did you know that?" Tang Zheng nodded. Fengyang patted his chest with lingering fear and said, "Boss, so you knew? I thought you didn't know. Xiaobai is too amazing, you don't know that day." It turned out that one day Fengyang encountered a robbery. Fengyang was originally a martial artist, so of course he was not afraid. He was prepared to show off his skills, but Xiaobai was a step ahead. It opened its little mouth and spat out a flame, setting a few robbers on fire. They screamed and fled, leaving Fengyang dumbfounded. From then on, Fengyang carefully looked at Xiaobai, afraid that it would spit out fire if it was unhappy. Fortunately, this situation did not happen again, but he was a little scared of this little fire-breathing monster. "Boss, at that time those robbers not only said they wanted to rob me, they also wanted to catch Xiaobai and stew it." I think this sentence angered it. Fengyang repeatedly recalled the scene at that time. When they first met the robbers, Xiaobai did not have any reaction. Instead it looked like it was watching a good show. Later when the robbers said this sentence, Xiaobai bared its teeth and spat out fire without hesitation, so Fengyang thought so. Tang Zheng understood Xiaobai's temper. The little guy did not like people challenging its dignity, not to mention wanting to stew it and eat it. It would be strange if it did not get angry. Not chasing after them and burning them to ashes was already a great effort to restrain itself. Tang Zheng stroked Xiaobai's head and said, "Those people only have themselves to blame, but you have to be careful in the future, don't spit fire, okay?" Zhi. Xiaobai nodded, jumped up and climbed onto Tang Zheng's shoulder, hugging his head. Fengyang stuck out his tongue and said, "Boss, where did you find Xiaobai? It's so awesome. This is completely a mythical beast from the legends." Xiaobai understood his praise and proudly raised its head. "The last time I went out to travel, I accidentally found it. It took me a lot of effort," Tang Zheng said with emotion. Fengyang said enviously, "I used to think that those legends were fake, but now it seems that they may be true. In the future I can't do blasphemous things." Saying this he looked at the sky, as if he was afraid that the gods would blame him. Tang Zheng now only knew of the existence of cultivators. As for whether or not the gods existed, he did not know. The next time he saw Tian Chanzi, he could ask this question. However, he did not plan to continue this topic. For the time being, he did not plan to tell Feng Yong about the cultivators. Cultivators were different, and they were being hunted down by the martial organization, so telling Feng Yong was not a good thing. Speaking of the martial organization, Tang Zheng was very confused about the jade pendant. Marshall said that the jade pendant was the martial organization's, but the jade pendant was related to his life. Could it be that his life was related to the martial organization? He could not think of the reason, and he did not want his life to be related to the martial organization. After all, he was a cultivator, and the martial organization specialized in hunting cultivators. The two of them were like fire and water. If his life was really related to the martial organization, then he would be in trouble, so after he returned to the capital, he did not take the initiative to investigate this matter, as if nothing had happened. "Boss, let's go eat first. After we eat, I'll take you around our school," Feng Yong said. Tang Zheng nodded. The two of them went to a restaurant outside to eat, and then walked around the school. This school was slightly smaller than Yenqing University, but it was still a famous school in the capital. Along the way, they saw many girls wearing revealing clothes, causing Feng Yong's eyes to almost fall out. Tang Zheng's heart moved, and he asked, "Fatty, didn't you say that you wanted to make the first move and take down a girl as soon as possible? How come I see you still alone?" Feng Yong said with a smile, "The flowers are dazzling, and there are too many girls. I haven't had time to look at them one by one, and I haven't chosen a target yet." "Then you continue to work hard. Now come with me to the computer city, I want to buy a computer," Tang Zheng said. "Buying a computer, I'm the best at this." Feng Yong's eyes lit up. He used to be an otaku, and he also fiddled with the Pengcheng International Schools Forum. He was much more familiar with computers than Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng did not have high requirements for a computer. He bought a computer so that it would be convenient for him to study in the future, and for him to video chat with Fang Shishir. In the past month, the two of them did not have much contact with each other. After all, international calls were inconvenient, and video chat was more comfortable when they could see each other. However, in the end, Feng Yong gave Tang Zheng a set of top-quality computers that cost tens of thousands. Tang Zheng was not short of money, so he casually swiped his card to pay for it. "Boss, tomorrow is National Day, and there are no classes. I'll go to your school and walk around," Feng Yong said. "Okay, stay in our dorm. Our dorm mates are not bad, you can get to know each other." Tang Zheng brought Feng Yong back to Yenqing University. As soon as he entered the door, he was blocked by his roommates. 3 pairs of eager eyes looked at him. Chapter 287. OL3, how's the social gathering going? Sinosaurus asked impatiently. Sogu, 360, So searched JDXS to download novels for free. Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily and said, looking at your impatient appearance, it's settled. OL3, I knew that you would definitely succeed. This is for the happiness of the rest of our lives. Sinosaurus laughed. Zhou Yan and Wang Shiji also had looks of joy on their faces. I think it's more like the happiness of the lower body. Boss, what social gathering? Feng Yong came out from behind Tang Zheng and asked curiously. Who is this? Sinosaurus and the other two looked at Feng Yong curiously. Feng Yong hurriedly greeted the 3 of them as if he was familiar with them. Hello everyone, I am the boss's little brother. My name is Feng Yong, nice to meet you all. Wow, OL3, you actually have a little brother. You're too awesome. The 3 of them were shocked and couldn't help but exclaim. Tang Zheng laughed and said, don't listen to Fatty's nonsense, he's my good brother. He came here to play for a few days during the National Day. Sorry to disturb you. Feng Yong cupped his hands. You're treating me like an outsider. If you're OL3's brother, then you're our brother. Sinosaurus put his arm around Feng Yong's shoulder. Brother, tell us about OL3's past. Isn't he very powerful? Of course he's powerful. You don't know that not only is boss's martial arts powerful, he's also our province's top scorer in science. Feng Yong said with pride. Wow, top scorer in the college entrance examination. The three of them were shocked. Their college entrance examination results were very good, but they were far from being the top scorer in a province. Didn't I hear that your province's top scorer in science was Takashi? Zhou Yan asked curiously. Takashi, he dares to say that he's the top scorer in the college entrance examination. I'll blow his head off with one punch. This brat isn't a good person at all. By the way, I remember that he is also a student of your Yenqing University. How is Takashi doing now? Feng Yong snorted in dissatisfaction. Sinosaurus and the other two looked at each other in astonishment. There was actually such a complicated story behind this. From the looks of it, San and Takashi were not on good terms. Sinosaurus said, Takashi is a popular figure now. He was even commended during the military training. Really? F***CK, are your school's leaders all blind? Even praising this kind of person? Feng Yong was indignant. Wang Shiji glanced at Tang Zheng. Seeing his calm expression, he hurriedly said, Takashi is indeed not a good person. Didn't you hear that he abandoned his team and ran away first? Besides, the credit for the military training this time should go to third brother. It's just that Takashi took advantage of it. What? Takashi dares to steal boss's credit? Feng Yong was filled with righteous indignation. Boss, you are magnanimous enough to not argue with him, but I must avenge you. Back then, he was so hateful in school, I didn't expect him to be so awesome when he came to Yenqing University. Tang Zheng patted him on the shoulder and said, calm down. It's just a clown. Don't worry about it. Sinosaurus and the other two did not say anything else. However, they were even more curious about Tang Zheng's past. Just how awesome was he in high school? Tang Zheng comforted Feng Yong, then used the matter of the fellowship to change the topic. The few of them discussed when to hold this fellowship party. Zhou Yan suggested, of course, the sooner the better. Tomorrow is National Day, and everyone is free. Why don't we have lunch together tomorrow, and then we can stroll around in the afternoon? If we like each other, we can take advantage of the next few days of vacation to go sightseeing and improve our relationship. Wang Shiji and Sinosaurus nodded in agreement. Boss, can I go with you? I also want to see the beauties in your school. Feng Yong volunteered. Of course. Before Tang Zheng could say anything, Sinosaurus had already said, we are all brothers. Of course, we will share our joys and sorrows. I just don't know how the quality of the girls in Yidingdang's dormitory is. The quality is very good. Tang Zheng recalled the appearance of the three girls and said. Really? Third brother, you've seen them? Yes, I saw them when I sent Ding Dang back to the dormitory. Wow, you actually went into the girls' dormitory. How was it inside? Were there many tempting things? Sinosaurus asked impatiently. There's no such thing as what you think. I just wandered around the door. One day I'll take the opportunity to sneak into the girls' dormitory and take a look. Sinosaurus said longingly. Then you have to find a girlfriend first. Do you think you're third brother? You're so charming that you can even get a beauty like Yi Ding Dang. Zhou Yan said. Wow, boss, you really got Sister Ding Dang. I knew you could do it. You don't know that my boss is a love saint. Back then, even Sister Ding Dang chased after him. Feng Yong said with a smile of exultation. Sinosaurus and the other two were shocked and exclaimed, damn, third brother, how many more awesome things do you have? Tell us all together so that we can worship you. You're making our hearts unable to take it. Wang Shiji said seriously, yes, this is the unanimous decision of the dormitory. Third brother, tell us the truth. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, it's just some trivial matters, don't listen to Fatty's nonsense, Yi Ding Dang, and I actually don't have anything going on. You're lying through your teeth. You even carried Great Beauty Yi back to the dormitory today. If there wasn't any relationship, would she let you carry her? Zhou Yan joked with a smile. Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He could only find an excuse to say that he wanted to discuss tomorrow's social gathering with Yi Dingdang, so he avoided the trial of 502 members and ran to the balcony to make a phone call. The next day was National Day. The members of 502 woke up early in the morning to wash up and dress up. Even Feng Yong was no exception. He kept muttering, "Boss, if I knew I was going to meet a beauty, I would have prepared a set of clothes before I came. You're pretty handsome like this. Besides, you're just getting to know a few new classmates. There's no need to make it so grand." Tang Jing said. Sinosaurus used a hairdryer to dry his hair as he said, "OL3, this is what you mean by a full man doesn't know. You have great beauty, Yi, so of course you don't have to care so much about your image. This is the first time we've met a beauty, so of course we have to leave a good impression." Looking at the few of them carefully dressing up, Tang Jing noticed that Wang Shiji's expression darkened. He had only brought a total of 3 sets of clothes, and they were all very simple t-shirts and casual pants. Compared to Zhou Yan and the others, they were a little inferior. Tang Jing patted Wang Shiji's shoulder and said, "Boss, nowadays beauties like to return to their natural state. Their fancy dressing might not be useful, so they have to do the opposite to attract the attention of beauties." Wang Shiji smiled shyly and said, "In the past, I rarely interacted with girls. They all said that I should interact more with the opposite sex in university, so today, I'm just going to broaden my horizons." After tidying up, Tang Jing carried Xiao Bai and the few of them headed straight for the female dormitory. After waiting for a while, 4 beautiful women walked out. The graceful figures of the 4 beauties with different styles were of course an impeccable scenery. Even the passers-by couldn't help but cast sidelong glances at them. Sinosaurus and the others' eyes immediately lit up. They suppressed the urge to rush up and carry the beauties home and welcomed them with a smile. The 4 beauties had faint smiles on their faces as they sized up the 5 of them. Without a doubt, if it weren't for Yi Dingdang, they wouldn't have agreed to this social gathering. Seeing that these people weren't crooked, they felt relieved. Yi Dingdang continued to lean on her walking stick, but her charm did not diminish. Amidst her valiance, there was a trace of gentleness, making her even more attractive. She saw Feng Yong at a glance and greeted him. "Feng Yong, why are you here?" "I'm here to see boss. I heard that you guys are having a social gathering. Of course, I won't let go of this opportunity to get to know the beauties," Feng Yong said without any stage fright. Tang Jing couldn't help but look at him. This brat had improved quite a bit in the past month. In the past, his personality was somewhat similar to Wang Shiji. However, ever since he met Tang Jing, he had changed bit by bit. Right now, he was completely reborn. "Oh, the beauties are all here. Let's see if you have the ability to capture their hearts," Yi Dingdang said with a smile. "Let me introduce the members of our dormitory." The 3 beauties were Lu Xian, Li Fangfei, and Hao Dan. The 3 of them had different outfits. Lu Xian wore denim shorts and a pair of flat shoes, showing off her youthful vitality. Li Fangfei wore a fiery red dress. Most people wouldn't be able to pull off such a color, but it was just right on her, fashionable and generous. Hao Dan wore a tutu skirt with 2 ponytails, looking very cute. Yi Dingdang's attire was a bit more simple. Long pants and a shirt wrapped around her slender legs, giving off a sense of gentleness and elegance. "Where are we going to eat?" Yi Dingdang asked. Tang Jing said in a dress and added, "This is a private restaurant. It's not as noisy as outside." 4th brother said that the food is pretty good, so he booked a table yesterday. "Okay, then let's go." "How are you guys going to get there?" Li Fangfei asked. "Let's take a taxi. It's too troublesome to take the bus," Tang Jing said. Li Fangfei said without batting an eyelid, "You guys take a taxi. I'll drive and take the 4 of us." She shook the car keys in her hand. The few boys looked at her in surprise. It was rare to see university students driving to school. This showed that the other party's family was well off. Tang Zhang's expression didn't change as he said calmly, "Then you guys go first. We'll be there soon." Li Fangfei's lips curled into a faint smile as she walked towards a bright red car. Yi Dingdang looked at Tang Zhang and said, "Tang Zhang, take the same car as us. Otherwise, the 5 of you won't be able to fit in a single taxi." Sinosaurus and the rest were envious. To be able to sit in a car with 4 beauties was a great honor. They hurriedly pushed him and said, "Third brother, go on. We'll be there soon." Tang Zhang didn't reject and nodded his head in agreement. Li Fangfei turned her head and looked at Tang Zhang with a hint of displeasure in her eyes. It was as though she didn't want him to get in her car. However, she didn't say anything in the end. Hao Dan, on the other hand, turned her attention to Xiao Bai, who was in Tang Zhang's embrace, and asked in surprise, "Is this your puppy?" "Yes." "Can I hug it?" "Sure." Hao Dan took over Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai cried out and wriggled in her embrace. Tang Zhang could clearly see the little fellow's claws directly lying on her chest. Tang Zhang really wanted to roll his eyes. This little fellow was definitely a pervert. He actually knew how to take advantage of a woman. Hao Dan, on the other hand, didn't notice this point at all and kept giggling. The few of them got on the car. Tang Zhang sat in the back seat next to Yi Dingdang. The car sped up and arrived at their destination. This was a low-rise building in the downtown area. It was extremely rare in the city center where tall buildings were everywhere. A waiter stood at the door and led the few of them to the private room they had booked. This building had its own universe. From the outside, it didn't look like much. However, inside, there were small bridges, flowing water, and pavilions. It was incomparably elegant. The few girls were a little surprised. They originally thought that this so-called private restaurant was just a gimmick. After all, a small restaurant in a residential area dared to call itself a private restaurant. However, the restaurant in front of them was obviously not of that level. Furthermore, the level was not low. Even Tang Zhang was a little curious. The private restaurant that 4th brother booked was actually so high-end. Before the few of them could digest this surprise, suddenly, a huge figure rushed out from the end of the corridor. It roared and rushed towards the few of them. Chapter 288. The giant creature that suddenly appeared was a Tibetan Mastiff. It was furry and fierce. It opened its bloody mouth and directly rushed toward Tang Zhang and the others. The girls immediately froze in place as if they had been immobilized. They opened their mouths and screamed. Whoosh! A small white figure jumped out of Hao Dan's arms and directly rushed toward the Tibetan Mastiff. Bang! The Tibetan Mastiff flew out like a cannonball and hit the wall. The small white figure steadily landed on the ground, wagging its tail and looking at the ugly big guy with contempt. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. Even Tang Zhang did not have the time to react before Little White made a counterattack as smoothly as flowing water. The screams came to an abrupt end. Everyone stared at the scene in bewilderment. How could the Tibetan Mastiff fly out? It seemed that it was hit by Xiao Bai. But how could it be? Even though Yi Dingdang was experienced and knowledgeable, she couldn't find a reasonable explanation. Moreover, she had seen Xiao Bai a long time ago. She didn't have any special feelings for it. How could it be so monstrous? It was like its owner. Xiao Bai showed off his strength and squeaked twice at the Tibetan Mastiff. The Tibetan Mastiff, which had stumbled to get up, stared at Xiao Bai fiercely. Xiao Bai took small steps and leisurely walked toward the Tibetan Mastiff as if he was taking a stroll. The Tibetan Mastiff stepped back step by step. The fierceness in its eyes decreased sharply. It actually showed fear. These two guys, one big and one small, were completely different. But the Tibetan Mastiff was obviously afraid of Xiao Bai, which made the others feel that this scene was very unreal. Tang Zhang felt that it was very normal. Although more and more rich people domesticated the Tibetan Mastiff as a pet, it always maintained a wild nature in its genes. This was also the nature of most animals. It was more sensitive to danger than humans. Other people saw Xiaobai as an ordinary puppy, but in the eyes of the Tibetan Mastiff, Xiaobai was a powerful enemy that it dared not fight against. Therefore, every time Xiaobai took a step forward, the Tibetan Mastiff would take a step back. Xiaobai strolled leisurely, while the Tibetan Mastiff took a step forward. When Tang Zheng was about to stop Xiaobai from showing off, he heard an angry shout, "Who hurt my General Weiwu?" There was a wound on the Tibetan Mastiff's back. Blood dyed its black fur red. This was the result of hitting the wall just now. A burly man walked out in large strides. He was incomparably furious, glaring at Tang Zheng's group. "Who hurt my General Weiwu?" The man stroked the head of the Tibetan Mastiff and asked sternly. Everyone subconsciously looked at Xiaobai. Xiaobai raised his head high, looking very proud. The man glanced at Xiaobai, then automatically ignored it and looked at the only man in the group, Tang Zheng. "Who are you?" the man shouted. Before Tang Zheng could answer, the waiter had already introduced him in a trembling voice. "Young Master Feng, these are the guests who have come to eat." This young Master Feng did not even look at the waiter and said arrogantly, "When I speak, how can you interrupt?" With that, he slapped the waiter, making it impossible for her to avoid it. With a slap, 5 finger marks appeared on the waiter's face. The waiter covered his face, tears about to fall, but he did not dare to make a sound. He stood at the side, trembling. The girls were so scared by this battle that their bodies trembled. Although they were proud sons of heaven, they were still students who had just entered the university. They had never seen such an unreasonable person. "You dare to injure my General Weiwu, that means you have some skills." "Forget it, my General Weiwu has not displayed his might for a long time. Today, you have the honor of seeing my General Weiwu's power." Young Master Feng said with interest. Tang Zheng had long since frowned. He was not sure who this so-called young Master Feng was, but when he looked at Yi Dingdang, she also shook her head slightly. Obviously, although she had only been in the capital for a few months, she did not know the other party's background. The capital was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. All sorts of powers were gathered here, and there were many big shots. This young Master Feng was definitely someone with a certain status. But Tang Zheng did not care. He even dared to deal with the martial sect and the Li Palace. How could he be afraid of this rich second generation? "Your Tibetan Mastiff suddenly jumped out and almost hurt my companion. You don't know how to discipline your own pet, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. Could it be that there is no law in the capital?" Tang Zheng asked. "Law?" Young Master Feng was startled for a moment, then suddenly laughed out wildly. "Interesting, really interesting. Today, I actually met someone who talked about the law with me." Young Master Feng's eyes were filled with ridicule as he continued, "Since you are talking about the law with me, then I will take both of your arms later and grind my General Weiwu's teeth." Yi Dingdang did not say anything. Although the other party had an extraordinary background, he knew that Tang Zheng would definitely not be afraid. After all, he did not even give face to Tang Zheng back then, but she remained calm and unruffled, watching the show without the slightest bit of fear. However, the other 3 people were not as bold as her. They looked at each other with ugly expressions. Even Li Fangfei's face was pale white. Didn't they just come for a meal? How could they have thought that they would encounter such a big problem? What should he do now? The other party's background was not small, and he even had such a ferocious beast. They were just ordinary students. How could they be his match? This Tang Zheng was really something. What was there to show off for? At most, he would just apologize and apologize. Wasn't he courting death by being so unreasonable to a big shot? Li Fangfei was already thinking about it. If things got out of hand later, she would have no choice but to call her family for help. Li Fangfei was a native of the capital. Her family ran a small business, which was why she was able to live without worries. However, she wasn't sure if her family's relationship would be able to settle the matter in front of her. She couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have come to this kind of social gathering. He didn't expect to fall into such a stalemate. Tang Zheng's heart was slightly angered as this person was truly unreasonable. Not only did he allow his Tibetan Mastiff to act recklessly, he even wanted to take his 2 arms. His appetite was truly not ordinary. "Alright, my arm is right here. If you have the ability, then come and take it. However, let me remind you, I'm afraid your 2 arms will suffer a little today." Tang Zheng was not afraid at all, and instead said lightly. "Huh, boasting shamelessly. I've lived for more than 20 years, and this is the most ridiculous joke I've ever heard. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I'll fulfill your wish. General Wei Wu, go." Child Feng pushed the Tibetan Mastiff forward, and the Tibetan Mastiff took a few steps forward. Tang Zheng did not move at all, while Yi Dingdang's eyes lit up, while the other 3 girls trembled and almost screamed out loud. They were so afraid that they covered their eyes, as if they did not dare to look at the bloody scene that was about to unfold. "Gigi!" Xiao Bai suddenly shouted at the Tibetan Mastiff, causing it to immediately stop in its tracks. Its eyes revealed a deep sense of fear, and with a low growl, it leaped up and jumped up. However, it did not pounce on Tang Zheng, but turned and pounced on its master, Child Feng, with its bloody mouth biting down on his neck. If this bite landed, it would directly bite off the other party's neck. This scene was beyond everyone's expectations. The 3 girls screamed again. Why would the Tibetan Mastiff attack its master for no reason? Had it gone crazy? Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang knew that the Tibetan Mastiff had not gone crazy, and that the instigator of all of this was Xiao Bai. Its 2 cries seemed to be in order for the Tibetan Mastiff to attack its master, and the Tibetan Mastiff did not even have the slightest ability to resist. Tang Zheng was a little surprised. He knew that Xiao Bai was not simple, but he did not expect that he could control the actions of other beasts. Child Feng was the one who was the most surprised. He had originally been waiting for the Tibetan Mastiff to pounce on Tang Zheng and bite off his 2 arms, but he realized that all of this was impossible. The Tibetan Mastiff that he had raised for a few years had actually pounced on him. Child Feng was not afraid, but instead, he was furious. A beast was a beast, and at the critical moment, he actually dared to turn around and attack. Without any hesitation, a fierce look flashed across his eyes, and with a stretch of his hands, he directly grabbed the head of the Tibetan Mastiff that was pouncing over. Roar! The Tibetan Mastiff roared crazily and struggled non-stop, impatiently wanting to bite off his neck. Child Feng grabbed its head with both hands. Facing the pet that had followed him for a few years, he did not have the slightest bit of hesitation or pity. Ka-cha! He snapped the Tibetan Mastiff's neck in one swift motion. Tang Zheng was not surprised at all. The moment the Tibetan Mastiff counterattacked, he knew that the Tibetan Mastiff would not be able to harm this Child Feng. This was because the other party was a warrior, and his cultivation was not low either. To be able to reach the 2nd stage of the post-celestial stage in his 20s, this was enough to show that the other party was very powerful, and his identity was not simple either. But so what? You deliberately provoked me, can't I retaliate? Tang Zheng had never thought of repaying evil with good. He believed in a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. Since the other party wanted those 2 arms, then he would return the favor. Of course he would have to remove the other party's 2 arms as well. However, before he could react, Child Feng's reaction was extremely intense. He felt that he had lost a lot of face, to actually be attacked by a pet that he had raised for a few years. He looked at Tang Zheng with an ashen face, then looked at Xiao Bai. Just like Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang, he could tell that the Tibetan Mastiff's sudden betrayal was due to Xiao Bai's influence. In other words, this puppy was definitely not simple, and was countless times more precious than his Tibetan Mastiff. Thus, he started to have ideas about Xiao Bai. First, he took care of Xiao Bai's master, and then, Xiao Bai would naturally become his pet. This pet that was even more awesome than the Tibetan Mastiff was definitely the only one, and the others could only be envious of it in the future. Thinking of this, he was very excited. However, he had to vent his anger on this brat right now. To deal with an ordinary person, He, a second-stage post-celestial stage warrior, felt like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. However, in front of so many beauties, it was indeed a beautiful thing to display one's strength. Furthermore, there was a top-grade beauty among them, and she was even a martial artist of the 9th grade of body refining stage. He had seen countless women, and this kind of top-grade beauty was rare. Since the other party was with this brat, he could not let them go. He walked towards Tang Jing step by step, and an invisible pressure suddenly increased. Especially Li Fangfei and the other two, they almost couldn't breathe, their faces were pale, and they were trembling. Li Fangfei's hand had already touched the phone in her bag, and she wanted to call home for help. Seeing his roommate's terrified expression, Yi Dingdang comforted him in a low voice, "Don't worry, with Tang Jing here, he won't be able to cause any big waves." His words were filled with incomparable confidence in Tang Jing. The three girls didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, Yi Dingdang was actually not worried at all. Her heart was simply too big. Moreover, the other party's identity was illustrious. Offending such a person would not be a good thing. Before they could even think about it, Child Feng had already walked in front of Tang Jing. Tang Jing stood in front of the girls like a sturdy city wall. His tall and straight back seemed to give people a sense of security. As their eyes met, Tang Jing's eyes gradually narrowed. Chapter 289. Child Feng reached out his hand to grab Tang Jing's arm, but Tang Jing arrived first, and actually grabbed onto Child Feng's arm first. Ka-cha! Before Child Feng could react, his two arms were directly removed and drooped weakly on his shoulders. Both sides attacked as fast as lightning. Before the others could even see what was going on, the outcome had already been decided. Child Feng did not scream loudly, but he could not help but let out a painful groan. The veins on his forehead bulged as he stared at his opponent with his mouth agape. How could the other party be faster and more accurate than him? He was a second-stage post-celestial stage warrior, and this person was obviously no different from an ordinary person. Tang Jing glanced at him lightly, and said, "I said that your two arms would suffer a little. I didn't go back on my word, right? Who exactly are you?" Child Feng's forehead was already drenched in cold sweat. There were not many people in the capital who dared to deal with him so brazenly. Ordinary people. Tang Jing said indifferently. How could an ordinary person be possible? Child Feng would not believe it even if he was beaten to death, but there had never been such a fierce person in the capital. Could it be that he was a dragon crossing the river? The water in the capital was so deep, yet a dragon crossing the river dared to be so unbridled. Other than having something to rely on, it was because he was an idiot. However, Child Feng did not know that Tang Jing's reliance was not on anyone else, but himself. Although the identity of a cultivator was different, it made him very confident. No matter what identity the other party had, he would not be afraid of anyone who dared to provoke him. Therefore, he did not care about the identity of this Child Feng at all and directly attacked. Seeing Tang Jing's clean and efficient attack, Yi Dingdang's eyes lit up. This person's strength was not low, but Tang Jing had removed both of his arms so quickly. Firstly, it meant that he had underestimated his opponent, and secondly, it was because Tang Jing's strength was indeed extraordinary. The other three people's thoughts were much more complicated. Li Fangfei had just pressed a few numbers, but he had no choice but to stop and look at Tang Jing and Child Feng in disbelief. It seemed that Tang Jing had won. However, she wasn't happy because she knew that the grudge between the two of them would really be formed, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Hao Dan and Lu Xian, on the other hand, were scared stiff by this terrifying scene. Their legs went soft and they almost fell to the ground. Luckily, Yi Dingdang's eyes were sharp and her hands were fast as she supported the two. Her eyebrows danced as she said, "How is it? I said that Tang Jing would be fine, right?" The three of them didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They had a new understanding of their roommate. Did she really not know what fear was? What's going on here? Suddenly, a woman walked out. "Child Feng, how did your General Weiwu die?" What's up with your arms? The woman blinked her bright eyes. She was not afraid at all. Instead, she was interested. This woman was in her 30s and had the charm of a young married woman. Her every frown and smile revealed a soul-stirring charm. The charm of Yi Dingdang and the others was overshadowed by her mature charm. Child Feng endured the pain and asked with an ashen face, "Boss Li, who exactly is this kid?" This young woman was the owner of this private restaurant, Li Hongqing. Her beautiful eyes swept across Tang Zheng's body, then paused on Yi Dingdang's face. Her face revealed a look of surprise as she said, "Child Feng, of course they are our customers. Who is this brat?" Hee, I don't know about that. Child Feng, it's impossible for me to know every customer who comes to our restaurant like the back of my hand. Li Hongqing said with a sweet smile. Boss Li, you don't mean what you say. Who doesn't know that this private restaurant is not something that ordinary people can enter? Tang Zheng's head moved. This was the place that Fourth Bro had booked to eat. He originally thought that it was just an ordinary restaurant, but he didn't expect that there would be so many unusual things. Immediately, he became curious about Zhou Yan. Thinking back to his parents' appearances, he didn't find anything out of the ordinary. However, who didn't have secrets? Therefore, he wouldn't go and get to the bottom of it. Li Hongqing only smiled, but did not answer, and said, "Mister, what grudges do you have with Child Feng? This small shop does not care, but this small shop has always had a rule, and that is, do not fight in the shop, so please let go of Child Feng." Yi Dingdang could not figure out Li Hongqing's background, but without a doubt, the other party was not a martial warriors, and did not have any ill intentions, so he let go of Child Feng. Child Feng immediately retreated a few steps, stared fiercely at Tang Zheng, and then said to Li Hongqing, "Boss Li, since you said that you wouldn't allow people to fight in your shop, then what do you say about him injuring me this time?" Li Hongqing smiled and said, "Then I don't know who made the first move, but if this mister made the first move, then I will definitely keep him and give you an explanation, Child Feng." Child Feng's expression changed slightly, and said, "Of course he made the first move." Yi Dingdang curled his lips, and said, "A grown man is not ashamed to lie. There are so many pairs of eyes watching here, everyone can clearly see who made the first move." Li Hongqing smiled and said, "Child Feng, it seems that this young lady has a different opinion." "Humph, who does she think she is?" "Boss Li, do you believe her words or do you believe mine? You can weigh it yourself." Li Hongqing looked left and right, as if she was deep in thought. Tang Zheng looked at the lady boss with interest. She was not a martial warriors, but this Child Feng was so afraid of her, which meant that her identity was not ordinary. Maybe there was some big shot behind her, and from the looks of it, this private restaurant was really not ordinary. "Child Feng, as a woman, I am more willing to believe in women," Li Hongqing said solemnly. "You?" Child Feng's expression suddenly changed. "All right, Boss Li, I will remember." "Child Feng, take care. Remember to visit our shop again next time." Seeing the Child Feng drooping his arms and angrily leaving, Li Hongqing acted as if she did not see his anger and said enthusiastically, "Pa pa pa." Yi Dingdang lightly clapped her hands and praised, "The lady boss is truly bold. I've made a fool of myself. You're here to take care of my business, but you've been disturbed by this unpleasant matter. I'm really sorry. Today's meal is on the house. Consider it my apology." Li Hongqing took the initiative to say. Everyone had already guessed that the cost of a meal here would not be small. She had actually given them a lot of face by waiving the bill. The lady boss is truly a forthright person. If there is a chance in the future, I would like to come and sit for a while more," Yi Dingdang said from the bottom of her heart. Li Hongqing laughed. "Welcome, a beauty like Miss is pleasing to the eye just by looking at her. I also hope to benefit from your light." Why is it so lively?" Suddenly, Sinosaurus's voice sounded, and the follow-up troops arrived. Zhou Yan asked, "Why are you all standing here and not going to the private room?" Li Hongqing looked at the few of them and said with a smile, "Welcome, everyone. I am the boss here, I will bring you to the private room. Boss? A strange look flashed across Zhou Yan's face, but it instantly returned to normal. Li Hongqing looked deeply at Zhou Yan, then brought the few of them to the private room. Before leaving, she looked at Tang Jing thoughtfully. Everyone gathered together, and the girls started to talk about what happened just now. Everyone was shocked, they did not expect so many things to happen during a meal. However, when they heard that the lady boss was free of charge, they were extremely excited, especially when Sinosaurus bluntly said that when they came in, they were worried that their wallet would not be full enough and that they would not be able to leave after eating, causing everyone to burst out in laughter. As for the crowd, they were not too surprised by Tang Zheng's clean and efficient attack. After all, they had seen Tang Zheng's massacre of the terrorists, so today's attack was nothing. However, Zhou Yan still advised in a low voice, Lao San, the capital is not like the border area in the west. There are crouching tigers and hidden dragons here, especially this private restaurant. I heard that there are often many rich and noble people patronizing it. Today's child Feng, I'm afraid he won't let this go easily. Different situations call for different measures. Don't you know my habits? Tang Zheng was not afraid in the slightest. Zhou Yan laughed, OL3, you are very capable, I was overthinking it. However, I heard that this boss Li is very mysterious, this time she actually took the initiative to entertain you, it is indeed very rare. Tang Zheng looked at Zhou Yan meaningfully. In the past, he had really ignored this fourth brother. He had originally thought that he was just a child of an ordinary official's family, but now it seemed that he had underestimated him. OL4, this private restaurant is not that easy to book. You have quite a bit of power. Zhou Yan chuckled, isn't my dad a civil servant? Actually, I've only heard of this restaurant before. Today, I've come to broaden my horizons. Not long after, a large table of delicacies was served. The dishes looked, smelled, and tasted good, especially the taste, which made one's tongue salivate. Yi Dingdang knocked on the red wine glass, indicating that he had something to say. Everyone quietened down, and Yi Dingdang coughed lightly, and said, this time, we are basking in the light of these handsome guys, coming to such a grand place to eat, so in order to express our gratitude, I suggest that everyone toast first. It's our honor to know so many beauties. Come, everyone, cheers. Sinosaurus said as he raised his wine glass. Now that everyone is familiar with each other, I will say a few more words. If anyone sees eye to eye with each other today, then don't be courteous and make your move as soon as possible. Especially the few handsome guys, look at how beautiful these few beauties are. If you don't take the initiative, then you won't have a share. Yi Dingdang said generously. Since great beauty Yi says so, then we won't be polite. Everyone chatted and laughed, the atmosphere was warm, and the feeling of unfamiliarity between them gradually disappeared. With Feng Yong and Sinosaurus livening up the atmosphere, this meal was truly enjoyable for both the guests and the host. Li Fangfei would look at Zhou Yan from time to time, and the two of them even clinked cups a few times. It seemed that she had taken a liking to Zhou Yan, and Gao Daji seemed to have taken a fancy to Lu Xian. Feng Yong also had some gains, and was actually chatting happily with the cute Hao Dan. Wang Shiji had come with a learning attitude today, and did not lock onto a target, so he was happy and harmonious with everyone. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang clinked glasses a few times, and in the end, Yi Dingdang directly pushed Feng Yong away and sat beside Tang Zheng, and said in a low voice, that child Feng and Boss Li are definitely not simple, do you want me to get my father to investigate? Tang Zheng said calmly, there's no need, if that child Feng wants to find trouble with me, I believe that he will be the one to regret it in the end. Yo, you're very confident. However, I still have to remind you that the capital is filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It's better to be careful. Tang Zheng muttered to himself for a moment, then said, then investigate this lady boss. Yi Dingdang blinked his eyes, and joked, are you interested in this kind of young woman? Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry, don't let your imagination run wild, I just feel that this lady boss is very interesting. Moreover, she favors you a lot, and doesn't pay attention to me. Tang Jing guessed wrong. It was not that Li Hongqing did not pay attention to him, but that he could not figure out his background. When Li Hongqing returned to his office and understood the cause and effect of the matter, he became especially interested in Tang Jing. Chapter 290. Li Hongqing's investigation of Tang Jing was superficial. When Tang Jing and the others left the private restaurant, she did not find out anything. She only knew that he was a new student at Yenqing University. Sogu, 360, So searched JDXS to download novels for free, but for Yi Dingdang, she did recognize him at first glance, because she did not have the words blame yourself in her past life. I really don't understand this group of profligate sons. But then again, aren't you one of them? No wonder you know them so well. TSK, don't talk nonsense. How could I be someone like them? Moreover, I started out halfway. What kind of profligate son am I? Yi Dingdang curled his lips and said unhappily. G.A. While they were talking, a commercial car stopped in front of the two of them, blocking their path forward. A few fierce-looking people jumped down. At the same time, the few people behind them quickly surrounded them. They attacked from the front and back, leaving the two of them with no way out. Come with us. A few of them actually took out their pistols and pointed them at the two of them as they said coldly. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted. He dared to use a gun on the streets of Beijing. It seemed that this child Feng was not an ordinary person. The two of them were bold and were not afraid at all. However, they said generously, "Let's go, lead the way." Tang Zheng was confident that he could get rid of them before the other party opened fire, so of course he would not be afraid. Yi Dingdang even looked like she was watching a good show. The person was stunned for a moment, as if he did not expect Tang Zheng to be so easy to catch. He said coldly, "At least you know what's good for you. Get in the car." The two of them were escorted into the car and then roared away. Along the way, a few people kept their guns aimed at the two of them, afraid that they would make a move. After all, they had been told that the two of them were not ordinary people. Xiao Bai opened her eyes wide and curiously watched this scene. She opened her mouth, as if she wanted to spit out fire and turn these people into charcoal at any time. Yi Dingdang glanced at the little fellow from time to time. The scene of it dealing with the Tibetan Mastiff was still vivid in her mind, making Yi Dingdang extremely interested in it. It was just that Tang Jing refused to tell her where it came from even if she was beaten to death. He only said that it was a small dog, leaving Yi Dingdang helpless. However, in her heart, she did not believe this kind of lies. The MPV stopped at the back door of a private club. They walked in from the back door, took the elevator to the 5th floor, and stopped outside a door. Before the door opened, Tang Jing heard a faint roar coming from inside. "I will definitely hide that brat and feed him to the dogs. He dares to go against me in the capital, this kind of person must die." This voice belonged to the arrogant child Feng from before. "Young Master Feng, we want to see just who dares to touch the earth on top of our heads." Another person said. "Yes, young Master Feng, we brothers will support you. We will definitely make this brat unable to return." To dare to provoke the 4 young masters of Beijing, he must have eaten a leopard's guts. Tang Zheng looked at Yi Dingdang and asked in a low voice, "What are the 4 young masters of Beijing?" Yi Dingdang curled her lips and scoffed, "I don't dare to be interested in these hedonistic circles at all. They are all a group of people relying on their parents' shadow to bully others, so I don't know what the 4 young masters of Beijing is." "Don't speak." A few big men shouted angrily to stop him. "Young Master Feng, don't be angry. Later, we'll play with that guy to vent our anger." A woman's voice advised. Dong dong. The big men knocked on the door. The room quietened down, and then young Master Feng's voice sounded, "Come in." With a creak, the door opened, and Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang were escorted in. Immediately, the room quietened down, and everyone's gazes turned to Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang. Young Master Feng was the first to laugh out loud. "Haha, brat, we meet again. This time, you're dead for sure. The others also looked at Tang Zheng in ridicule, but after a while, they looked at Yi Dingdang, and their eyes lit up. These hedonistic young masters were very picky with their mouths, and had already seen countless beauties, but characters like Yi Dingdang were extremely rare. Young Master Feng, your luck is not bad. There's actually such a beauty. Although you were injured this time, you still earned it. Hee hee. Someone said with a smile of exultation. Young Master Feng's gaze also fell on Yi Dingdang's body for a while, not concealing the desire in his eyes. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang calmly looked at this group of people. There were a total of 10 of them, and without a doubt, they were all wearing famous brands and were arrogant. Tang Zheng even saw a few female movie stars who often appeared on TV beside the mechanical man. These female movie stars did not have their usual high and mighty appearance. Instead, they were extremely respectful towards the hedonistic young masters beside them. Tang Zheng was greatly disappointed, so he did not pay too much attention to it. However, he recognized a familiar person in the crowd, and Yi Dingdang also recognized this person, Yi Meiyu. Yi Meiyu also looked at the two of them in surprise, but she did not say anything. She did not rush to speak, but instead stared at the two of them as if she was watching a good show. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang did not say anything, but they had no choice but to re-examine this young Master Feng. Since Yi Meiyu was in this circle, it meant that this young Master Feng's family was part of the Ye family's circle. Yi Dingdang did not have much of a sense of identity with the Ye family in the capital, so even if young Master Feng really had something to do with the Ye family, she would pretend that she did not know. As a result, due to the tacit understanding between the two sides, no one knew Yi Dingdang's identity. They only looked at this beautiful girl with envy. Tang Zheng looked at young Master Feng without batting an eyelid. His arm was bandaged, and although Tang Zheng's 2 strikes did not injure his foundation, he still needed to rest for a few days. It seems like the lesson from before is not deep enough. You still want to taste something even more painful. Tang Zheng said indifferently. Hearing that, Child Feng said, "Damn, you dare to be so arrogant in our territory? Let me tell you, with that woman Li Hongqing obstructing me earlier, I couldn't do anything to you. Now that you're here, I can kill you in a matter of minutes." "Oh, looks like you're so afraid of Li Hongqing. So you're not that powerful? You're even afraid of an ordinary woman," Tang Zheng said. The expressions of the others were very interesting as they looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. Young Master Feng finally laughed out loud. "I can finally confirm that you are not some big shot, you actually don't even know Li Hongqing's background, and you dare to come to the capital to fool around. It's not an exaggeration to say that you are an idiot." Tang Zheng was slightly startled. Was this Li Hongqing that powerful? The others also looked at him with ridicule and said, "This brat really thinks of himself as a dragon crossing the river. Humph, the capital is filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. This kind of dragon crossing the river is the fastest to die, it can't even make a splash. Yes, you don't even know Li Hongqing's name. You really are a nobody." Looking at the looks of disdain on everyone's faces, Tang Zheng was truly curious about Li Hongqing. Just what was so magical about this woman? "You don't know, and I don't have the obligation to tell you. Ask the brats below when you go to hell." Young Master Feng's face revealed a ruthless expression, and said sternly, "Break his legs first to prevent him from escaping, then I'll slowly play with him." The few brawny men beside him pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang bang. 2 bullets directly shot out of the chamber. After the bullets passed through the silencer, they only made a slight sound. Tang Zheng hugged Yi Dingdang, then quickly dodged to the side. His figure flashed, and with a stretch of his hand, he had already grabbed onto the big-sized man's wrist. The pistol flew out of his hand, and Tang Zheng snatched the pistol, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang bang, with a series of muffled sounds, a few big men were immediately shot and fell to the ground, crying out miserably. Tang Zheng immediately kicked the pistol away, and looked at the crowd with a murderous look. This was the capital. Tang Zheng did not kill them, but the threat of these few big-sized men had been completely removed. He turned the gun and aimed it at young Master Feng. They never thought that Tang Zheng would be able to successfully counterattack under the gun. Young Master Feng was also stunned for a moment. He was a second-stage post-celestial stage martial artist, so it was not easy for him to be invincible in such a close-range battle. Moreover, from the very beginning, he did not place enough importance on Tang Zheng. This was because he thought that the other party's strength was about the same as his, and that he was only lucky to injure him when he was not paying attention. But now, the strength that Tang Zheng displayed showed that this was not the case, but as one of the 4 young masters of the capital, how could young Master Feng admit defeat just like that? Before Tang Zheng could even shoot, young Master Feng quickly took a small step back, revealing a person who had been standing behind him the entire time. Chapter 291. Once the person behind the scene was revealed, Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang both felt a chill in their hearts. This was because this person was also a martial artist, and an expert at that. Even from a distance of a few meters, they could clearly feel his surging inner strength. Sogu, 360, searched JDXS to download novels for free. Child Feng revealed a complacent look, and said, "Now you know what it means to be afraid, right? Humph, you dare to cause trouble in my territory? Today, I will teach you how to write the word death." When the others saw Tang Zheng knock down a few gun-wielding men in an instant, they were shocked, and some of them even panicked. After all, these hedonistic sons were not all warriors like Child Feng. They were basically ordinary people, and most of them were unwilling to suffer the hardships of practicing martial arts. Due to Child Feng's family reasons, the men in his family had to practice martial arts. Even if he was unwilling, it would be useless. However, when they saw the person behind Child Feng walk out, they all heaved a sigh of relief. They had actually forgotten about such an important person. With him here, this brat was simply insignificant. Tang Zheng stared at the other party. From the other party's body, he could feel the unique aura of a pre-celestial stage expert. He had already interacted with many pre-celestial stage experts, so this feeling was very sharp. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. These hedonistic sons were really annoying. They weren't very strong themselves, but the family behind them was too strong. Just like that Qin Lao who had protected Song Yu back then, he was a 5th stage pre-celestial stage expert. This middle-aged man did not have the calmness of Qin Lao that was as deep as an abyss, but he gave off a sharp feeling that made one's heart palpitate. Yi Dingdang said in a low voice, "This person is very powerful, we might not be his match." Tang Zheng obviously knew this, but if Child Feng wanted his life, could it be that he would kneel down and beg for mercy, begging the other party to let him go? Although Yi Dingdang had revealed her identity, this battle would definitely not start, but Yi Dingdang had a look of watching a good show, so how could the proud Yi Dingdang be willing to reveal her identity? Didn't this mean that he was afraid of death? In fact, Yi Dingdang was very similar to Tang Zheng. They both believed that victory was won with their own fists. No matter how strong the enemy was, they would not admit defeat, let alone use their identities to scare others. Therefore, when facing this innate master, neither of them retreated. It was as if the soles of their feet were rooted to the ground as they stared at each other without moving an inch. "Raging Inferno, take him down for me, and then I'll slowly torture him to death," Child Feng ordered sternly. Raging Inferno was the name of this pre-celestial stage expert. He was an expert that Child Feng's family had roped in, and was in charge of protecting Child Feng. However, everyone in the capital knew the name of the Child Feng, and no one dared to deal with him. Thus, the Raging Inferno did not follow him closely. And this time, encountering Tang Zheng was a complete accident, which was why Child Feng had suffered so much at the hands of Tang Zheng. Raging Inferno knew that he had failed in his duty, so when he saw Tang Zheng, he revealed his sharpness. He was determined to take down Tang Zheng and show his face in front of the Child Feng. Of course, although he could not see through Tang Zheng's cultivation level, from the way Tang Zheng attacked just now, he could tell that Tang Zheng's strength was far inferior to his, so he was full of confidence. Raging Inferno walked towards Tang Zheng with large strides, like a hunter facing his prey, displaying extreme confidence. Tang Jing did not hesitate to pull the trigger. A stream of bullets poured out, covering the sky and covering the earth as they shot towards his opponent. His shots were not aimlessly fired, but shot towards raging inferno, covering all the fatal points on his opponent's body. This person was much more powerful than the few men from before. Tang Jing had trained with firearms in the army, and even though he was not proficient, he was still an expert. His hands were steady and careful, and he was not to be outdone by many veterans who had trained with guns for many years. These bullets whistled through the air, but there was not much fire. He pushed his palms forward. Boom! A wave of air surged out, and the bullets shot out to the side, shooting into the surrounding walls. This was the difference between people. Although Tang Jing was not afraid of this kind of bullet, he would not take it head-on like this. Instead, he would dodge. However, as a pre-celestial martial artist, Raging Inferno was obviously more skilled. He directly used an even more gorgeous move to counterattack, causing the eyes of others to light up. Especially this group of hedonistic young masters, many of them actually whistled excitedly. This kind of explosive scene was rare. It was much more explosive than the gorgeous special effects in movies, and it was easier to make one's blood boil. Tang Jing's blood could not boil at all. The moment the other party made a move, Tang Jing was certain that the other party was really a pre-celestial martial artist. Tang Jing did not think that he was a match for a pre-celestial martial artist, so he took advantage of this gap and retreated without hesitation, directly knocking open the door and retreating into the corridor at the same time as Yi Dingdang. He did not want to escape, but to fight in a wider area. Protect yourself, Tang Jing said to Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang's expression changed slightly. She nodded and did not say a word as she watched Tang Jing retreat towards the end of the corridor, while Raging Inferno chased after him relentlessly. The others also rushed out and watched the intense battle without blinking. Yi Meiyu even looked at Yi Dingdang with interest. Originally, she thought that Tang Jing was an insignificant and poor brat, but now it seemed that this brat actually had some skills, but it was limited to this. After all, Yi Meiyu had never lacked warriors since she was young, so she knew that compared to personal strength, external strength was more important. As a result, he did not think highly of Tang Jing, and instead looked at Yi Dingdang with disdain. This wild girl who suddenly came back from the outside wanted to compete with him for a position in the Ye family. This time I'll get rid of you first. The others did not know about Yi Meiyu's sinister intentions, and Yi Dingdang did not care either. He nervously watched the battle between Tang Jing and Raging Inferno, and also kept a distance from the others, preventing them from sneaking an attack on her. The strong chi wave made it so that no one dared to approach, and they could only watch from afar. Tang Jing fought and retreated, and had already retreated to the end of the corridor, and below him was the stairwell. Everyone thought in disdain, a guy who only knew how to run away. I thought he was very powerful. Child Feng's face revealed joy, but also a bit of malevolence. He complacently said to the people beside him, I already said that this brat is nothing to be afraid of. A small river dragon wanting to cause a big wave in the capital is simply wishful thinking. Child Feng is right. Child Feng is one of the 4 young masters of the capital. This brat has eyes but does not recognize Mount Tai. Offending you, Child Feng, is courting death. Someone agreed. Yes, Child Feng. After this battle, your reputation will definitely increase greatly. You might even suppress Yan Luyun and become the head of the 4 young masters of the capital. When Child Feng heard the title of the head of the 4 young masters of the capital, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of envy. It was obvious that he had been admiring this title for a long time. Yi Meiyu glanced at Child Feng without leaving a trace, then curled her lips and thought in disdain. You dare to become the head of the 4 young masters of the capital, you really overestimate yourself. Is Yan Luyun someone you can stand shoulder to shoulder with? If it wasn't for the fact that Yan Luyun already had an engagement, I would have chased after him. How could I have come to hang out with you? Child Feng did not know what Yi Meiyu was thinking, otherwise, he would definitely fly into a rage. Yi Dingdang was standing not far away, and clearly heard this series of flattery. His heart moved, and he was secretly surprised. this child Feng is actually someone who is as famous as Yan Luyun. Could he be someone from the four great families of the capital? The four great families of the capital were the Yan, Song, Chu, and Yi families, and Yan Luyun was a member of the Yan family. If this child Feng is a member of the four great families, could he be a member of the Chu family? Yi Dingdang thought to himself. After coming to the capital, he did not deliberately try to understand the various powers, and these were all news that he would occasionally hear. Amongst them, Yan Luyun's great name was like thunder to his ears, and was often mentioned. It was said that he was the most outstanding person in the younger generation, even more outstanding than Song Yu, who Yi Xuanji had his eyes on. Furthermore, Yan Luyun was extremely legendary. Although his family background was illustrious, his ability was outstanding, and he was talented, the fiancé he found for himself was an ordinary person. This ordinary person was not a natural beauty, and was only slightly above average. However, Yan Luyun was deeply fond of her, and had set aside all sorts of difficulties to get engaged to her. This was simply a real-life Cinderella story. Back then, the news of Yan Luyun's engagement had caused many young ladies of the rich and powerful families to cry until their eyes turned red. Of course, this also made many ordinary girls who heard of this matter envious and jealous. Why didn't such a thing happen to them? Although Yi Dingdang had never seen Yan Luyun before, he was filled with admiration for this kind of person. This was a true man with iron bones. This child Feng still wanted to stand shoulder to shoulder with Yan Luyun. It was simply wishful thinking. For the Chu clan to have such a disciple, it's truly a shame. You still have the nerve to come out and embarrass yourself. Yi Dingdang cursed in his heart, and then looked at Yi Meiyu, and thought, no wonder the capital has a bad impression of her, hanging out with this kind of person. What kind of ghost can there be in the evaluation? This raging inferno is still a pre-celestial stage expert. Tang Zheng is definitely not his match. Then what should we do? Could it be that I have to watch him get killed? No, absolutely not. Yi Dingdang's thoughts raced as he thought of a way to deal with this situation. Tang Zheng was also thinking of a way to deal with this situation. He had already received a few moves from his opponent, causing his blood to tremble, and he was almost injured. However, he knew that he could not hold on for too long. Seeing that he had already retreated to the stairwell, and that the other's line of sight was unavoidably blocked, he had an idea and said in a low voice, Xiao Bai, when I take a few more steps back, you will spit fire. Xiao Bai had already continued to rage, baring his teeth at the raging inferno. If not for the fact that he remembered Tang Zheng's reminder that he could not casually spit fire, he would have already spat fire at the raging inferno, turning him into a true raging inferno. Now that he had received the order, Xiao Bai's blood-red eyes gradually lit up, as if he was staring at his prey, staring at the raging inferno like a tiger eyeing its prey. Tang Zheng retreated along the stairs. The raging inferno was like a maggot in his bones, quickly following him, determined to take down Tang Zheng. Because the child Feng had given the order to take down the opponent and kill the opponent, the raging inferno had not used its ultimate move, which put a layer of shackles on the raging inferno. As a result, Tang Zheng fought and retreated, and had persisted for so long without being defeated. If the raging inferno directly used its killing move, then Tang Zheng's situation would be even more dangerous. Tang Zheng glanced at the corridor, and after confirming that no one else could see him, he bellowed, "Fire breath." Boom! Xiao Bai opened her mouth, and a stream of flames immediately shot out, heading straight for the raging inferno. When the raging inferno heard the sound of spitting fire, it did not understand what was going on, and thought that the other party would use some kind of hidden weapon. However, it saw a ray of fire shoot up into the sky, and then he was immediately enveloped by the flames. He turned pale with fright and shouted, anxiously circulating his energy to protect his body. The flames blocked his line of sight, and he did not notice that at some point in time, a bow without an arrow had appeared in Tang Zheng's hand. Tang Zheng pulled the bowstring and released his fingers. Wang! Chapter 292. The raging fire really turned into a ball of flames and flew backwards from the stairwell. The others only had time to hear a miserable scream, and then a huge ball of fire flew out. Net fire? How could there be fire? Everyone was confused. Who was this fireman? Was it that brat or Raging Fire? No, it was definitely not Raging Fire. He was a pre-celestial stage expert. Moreover, this flaming man landed heavily on the ground, causing sparks to fly everywhere. He did not move at all. How could he be a pre-celestial stage expert? It could only be that brat. Even Yi Ding Dang could not help but think so. After all, the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Actually, she had already decided to call Yi Tianlei and ask him to save Tang Zheng. However, she did not expect that before she could even make the call, such a strange change had occurred in the battle, and a person had turned into a flaming man. Was this really Tang Zheng? She did not dare to continue thinking. Her hand that was holding the phone couldn't help but tremble. Her eyes instantly turned red, and tears almost flowed out of her eyes. Seeing her on the verge of tears and clenching her teeth, Yi Meiyu's face revealed a look of joy. This time your little lover has been burned to death. This is great. Who told you, a wild girl, to come back to the capital and fight with me? Because Child Feng and the rest were also overjoyed. Child Feng could not help but shout, Raging Fire, good job. However, the cheers stopped abruptly. A person walked out from the stairwell and stood in front of the burning man. He stood in front of everyone. Immediately, the air seemed to have frozen, and only the crackling sound of the flames could be heard. Tang Zheng also felt very lucky. Just now, he had used Xiaobai to spit out fire to disturb the opponent's mind and vision, but he did not think that this would be enough to kill a pre-celestial martial artist. Therefore, he did not hesitate to add on an attack, using the heaven-shocking bow to shoot out an arrow that accurately hit the opponent's chest. At that moment, Tang Zheng even heard the sound of bones shattering. It had to be known that the heaven-shocking bow was a divine weapon that could cause a demon god's body to explode. Catching a pre-celestial martial artist off guard was indeed enough to take his life, and the facts had proven this point. Looking at the motionless Lai Hua on the ground, Tang Zheng knew that his fatal wound was not the flame, but the arrow. Of course, at this moment, he had already put away the heaven-shocking bow. The heaven-shocking bow was too shocking, he definitely could not casually reveal it. As if he had seen a ghost, Child Feng opened his mouth wide, as if his throat was tightly gripped by someone. He stared at Tang Zheng with wide eyes and muttered to himself, Impossible, how can you kill Raging Inferno? He is a pre-celestial martial artist, how can you be his match? However, everything before his eyes was a fact. Raging Inferno had indeed failed, and had paid the price of his life. Tang Zheng walked towards Child Feng, causing the others to subconsciously retreat, but Child Feng's legs felt as if they were filled with lead. He wanted to escape, but found that his legs did not listen to him at all. The shock that this scene brought to him was simply too strong. Yi Meiyu was as shocked as him. She did not retreat and looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. How could this brat be so powerful? How could Yi Dingdang's lover be so powerful? Unfair. Although Yi Dingdang was also filled with doubts, his eyes lit up. Hero. Tang Zheng's scene was simply too heroic, too mighty. Her heart was trembling with excitement, and the anxious look on her face that was on the verge of tears disappeared without a trace. If not for the inconvenience of her legs, she would have immediately pounced into Tang Zheng's embrace. Tang Zheng walked in front of Child Feng. The two of them were of similar height, and when their eyes met, Child Feng saw a gaze that he would never forget for the rest of his life. This gaze was abnormally cold, without the slightest bit of pity, only endless killing intent. Just by looking at it, it was as if he was in a world of ice and snow. Child Feng twitched his facial muscles with difficulty and asked, What are you doing? What do you think I'm going to do? Tang Zheng reached out with both hands and immediately grabbed onto the other party's two arms. Child Feng immediately screamed in shock, You can't kill me, I am the eldest young master of the Chu family, Chu Xiaofeng. If you kill me, the Chu family will not let you off. Tang Zheng did not know what the Chu family was, and did not care about what the Chu family was. Since you dare to kill me, then I will dare to kill you. It was that simple. Tang Zheng had always followed such a simple logic, and did not want to waste time with the other party. Exerting force with his arm, Chu Xiaofeng's arm that was originally helping with the bandage immediately twisted at a strange angle. Ka-cha! The bones at the elbow joint were forcefully broken. The crisp sound of breaking caused everyone's teeth to chatter and their faces to turn pale. From Tang Zheng's unhesitatingly cold gaze, they really felt a wave of killing intent rushing towards them. In front of this person, the identity that they used to think of as invincible was worthless. In front of this person, they were just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. They really wanted to shout for help, but the people on this floor had all been cleaned up. Furthermore, no matter how big of a commotion there was, no one below would come to disturb them. This was something that had been arranged beforehand, and no one dared to disobey the orders of this group of silk pants. Therefore, they could only watch helplessly as Tang Zheng made his move. These people's family backgrounds were generally not as good as Chu Xiaofeng's. Usually, they would follow him around to strengthen their momentum, and thus try to get closer to the Chu family. But this time, Chu Xiaofeng was attacked right in front of them, yet they were powerless to do anything. Then, all of their previous wishful thinking would be for naught. They wanted to cry but had no tears, but Yi Meiyu was secretly delighted. Her originally dejected eyes gradually lit up as she thought to herself, "Hurry up and kill Chu Xiaofeng. As long as you kill him, you will definitely attract the revenge of the Chu family. At that time, no one will be able to protect you anymore. Yi Dingdang will definitely cry to death." Although Yi Dingdang did not know Yi Meiyu's sinister intentions, but seeing that Tang Zheng really wanted to kill Chu Xiaofeng, she was shocked and quickly shouted, "Tang Zheng, don't kill him." Tang Zheng subconsciously stopped, turned his head to look at Yi Dingdang, and asked curiously, "Why?" "He's a member of the Chu family. Killing him will be very troublesome. The Chu family is one of the 4 great families in the capital." Yi Dingdang quickly explained. The 4 great families of the capital? Tang Zheng did not have any concept of this, but looking at Yi Dingdang's nervous expression, he could guess how powerful it was. However, he was even more aware of the vengeful nature of these silk pants. Back then, Huang Xiang was also like this. If he let the tiger return to the mountain, he didn't dare guarantee that Chu Xiaofeng wouldn't continue to deal with him in desperation. Yi Dingdang rolled her eyes and saw Tang Zheng's worry, and quickly said, "Chu Xiaofeng, listen, if you want revenge, then come and find the Ye family. I am Yi Dingdang, and this is my fiancé. If you have the guts, then come and find the Ye family." Ye family? Everyone felt dizzy. Why did the Ye family come out again? This beauty was actually a member of the Ye family. Yi Dingdang, they seemed to have heard this name somewhere before. The smart people had already remembered that Yi Dingdang was Yi Tianlei's daughter. After Yi Tianlei returned to the Ye family, he was in the limelight. Many people knew that the abandoned son of the Ye family had now become a strong competitor for the next head of the Ye family. Immediately, everyone looked at Yi Dingdang and Tang Zheng in a different light. They originally thought that they were dragons that crossed the river without any foundation, but now they knew that they had a big backer behind them. Moreover, it was a backer that did not lose out to the Chu clan. No wonder they were so arrogant. Although Chu Xiaofeng was usually arrogant, he was not an idiot. When he heard the other party's identity, he knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time. He was not afraid of the Ye family, but the Ye family was not afraid of the Chu family either. Both sides were on par with each other, so he could be considered to have suffered a loss this time. His family would not attack the Ye family for such a small matter. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel regret and hatred. He looked at Yi Meiyu with eyes filled with hatred. Since she was a member of the Ye family, why didn't Yi Meiyu remind him earlier? That way, he could have resolved the enmity from the very beginning. There was no need to go to this step. Not only did he lose an expert, he also lost a lot of face. If this were to spread out in the future, he would probably be laughed at to death. Yi Meiyu, you bitch, your heart is vicious. During this period of time, you spent so much effort to hang out with Laozi, so it turns out that you were digging a hole for Laozi. Then, you even pushed Laozi. How ruthless. Chu Xiaofeng thought fiercely. Yi Meiyu looked at Chu Xiaofeng's eyes and her heart trembled. She immediately understood the look in his eyes and her heart trembled. That look of hatred made her flustered. All her efforts during this period of time had gone down the drain. Yi Meiyu's goal of hanging out with Chu Xiaofeng was not simple. She just wanted to hang on to Chu Xiaofeng and then marry into the Chu family. This way, her position in the Ye family would quickly rise, and this would be beneficial for her father when he competed for the position of patriarch of the Ye family in the future. Back then, when Yi Xuanji had no hope of breaking through to the Great Master realm, he thought of marrying into the Song family. Yi Meiyu wanted to fight for this spot, but her reputation was not good, and Song Yu did not like her, so in the end, she decided on Yi Dingdang. Later on, Yi Xuanji successfully broke through to the Great Master realm, and the crisis of the Ye family was temporarily resolved. Yi Xuanji followed his agreement with Tang Zheng and cancelled the engagement between Yi Dingdang and Song Yu. This caused the relationship between the Song and Yi families to become subtle, and it was no longer as strong as before. Yi Meiyu's thoughts were lively. After knowing that she had no hope of marrying into the Song family, she turned her attention to the Chu family. The young master of the Chu family, Chu Xiaofeng, was also a standard playboy, with countless affairs, but Yi Meiyu did not care, as this was instead compatible with her usual licentious habits. Therefore, after interacting with Chu Xiaofeng for a few days, the relationship between the two of them improved by leaps and bounds, and they were now a pair. If things went smoothly, it was very likely that they would get married in the future, and at that time, it would be a marriage between the Yi and Chu families, and both sides would benefit from it. Of course, the one who benefited the most was Yi Meiyu. However, all of this had collapsed at this moment today. From Chu Xiaofeng's venomous gaze, it could be seen that he had imagined Yi Meiyu to be on the same side as Yi Dingdang, and that both sides were here to trick him today. Yi Meiyu wanted to cry, but she had no way to explain. Her heart was filled with anger as she stared at Yi Dingdang hatefully. Her perfect plan was about to succeed, but it was Yi Dingdang who ruined her plans again and again. Seeing Chu Xiaofeng's venomous gaze, Yi Dingdang did not explain, nor did she have the mood to explain. Ever since she returned to the Ye family in the capital, Yi Dingdang had been targeting her. If she could ruin her plans this time, Yi Dingdang would be secretly happy. Chu Xiaofeng, remember what I said just now. If you want revenge, then come to the Ye family. We will accompany you to the end. Tang Zheng, let's go. After Yi Dingdang finished speaking, he immediately held on to Tang Zheng's hand. Tang Zheng felt as if he had just woken up from a dream. He was shocked by Yi Dingdang's powerful words just now. When did he become Yi Dingdang's fiancé? Furthermore, he had made it public in front of so many people. Wouldn't that mean that he was going to confirm this identity? One had to know that this was just a fake identity that he had created to save her. He felt a soft palm in his hand and subconsciously looked towards Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang was winking at him, and he understood that it was better to leave this place first. He held Yi Dingdang's hand and walked downstairs, out of the clubhouse. Yi Dingdang heaved a sigh of relief. Seeing that Tang Zheng was still in a daze, she quickly explained, just now, it was a temporary measure. If I didn't say that and push the blame onto the Ye family, then the Chu family would take revenge on you. This way, you would be in a very passive position. Chapter 293. Tang Zheng was very moved by Yi Dingdang's painstaking efforts, and said sincerely, thank you. Fairy Search download a novel for free. Yi Dingdang revealed a smile and said, let's go to the Ye family now. We must tell them about this matter. Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment, then agreed. Although he was very reluctant to see Yi Xuanji, since this matter involved the Ye family, he naturally had to make a trip. The two of them took a car to the Ye family's courtyard house. As soon as they entered, they bumped into a handsome young man walking towards them. Yi Dingdang stopped and greeted, Big Brother. Tang Zheng could not help but size up this person. He had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, red lips, and white teeth. He was truly a romantic and elegant young master. This person was the eldest son of the Ye family's third generation, Yi Ku, one of the 4 young masters of the capital. Yi Ku stopped and looked at the two of them. She revealed a smile and said, "Ding dang, who is this?" Although Yi Ku and Yi Meiyu were siblings, there was a world of difference between the two of them. Yi Ku was knowledgeable and had a good reputation, which was completely different from Chu Xiaofeng's hedonistic personality. During the time that Yi Dingdang came to the capital, Yi Ku also took care of her. Yi Dingdang heard and introduced, "This is my friend Tang Zheng." "Oh, you are Tang Zheng?" TSK, Yi Ku looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully. "You have to treat Dingdang well in the future, otherwise I, as your big brother, will not let you go." Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment, and suddenly realized that the other party must have known that Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang were faking it. He could not help but smile in distress. Yi Dingdang's eyes flashed with shyness, but she did not explain, and said, "Big brother, I'll go in first. I'll look for you when I have time." "Okay, you can go. Take advantage of the National Day and have fun," Yi Ku said with a smile. The two of them first went to Yi Tianlei's room. Yi Tianlei and his wife were there. They looked at Tang Zheng in surprise and said, "Little Tang Zheng, you're here. Take a seat." Yi Dingdang looked at her parents resentfully and said, "I'm your daughter. Why do I feel that you're closer to Tang Zheng than you are to me?" Feng Xinyang laughed out loud. "I've wanted to have a son like you for a long time. I'm tired of looking at you all day." Everyone knew that Feng Xinyang was joking, so they didn't take it seriously. Yi Dingdang curled her lips and pretended to be wronged. "Humph, biased. Look, I'm still injured. You still have the nerve to say that. If it weren't for the little handsome brother protecting you, I don't know what would have happened. You're getting bolder and bolder. You actually went to the terrorists' lair without saying a word." Feng Xinyang poked her daughter's forehead and complained. "Everyone went. If I didn't go, wouldn't I be laughed at?" Yi Dingdang explained. Yi Tianlei said, "It's good to go and train. The children of the Ye family have always grown up in a greenhouse. If they don't experience the wind and rain, what kind of words would that be?" Feng Xinyang said, "Fortunately, there is Tang Zheng. If it weren't for him, we would have already dragged you back. Little handsome brother, I heard that your operation this time wasn't going well, and your credit was stolen by others?" Tang Zheng smiled faintly. "This little bit of credit doesn't matter." Yi Dingdang said unjustly, "His credit was stolen by Takashi, and there is also this woman. If it wasn't for her making things difficult for him, how could Tang Zheng not even be able to receive the award?" Hearing Wu, Yi Tianlei, and Feng Xinyang both became serious at the same time. They had long heard of this matter, and Wu was actually the instructor of the student soldiers. When they heard the news, they were shocked, and thought that the martial sect had discovered the matter of the ordinary balance. Later on, it was proven that it was all a false alarm. Wu had really lost his memories, and Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang were lucky enough to escape this calamity. Look at how open-minded little Tang is. A little bit of profit is nothing. However, little Tang, I really don't understand why you don't maintain a good relationship with the military? Yi Tianlei's fiery eyes of truth saw through Tang Zheng's true goal with a single glance. Tang Zheng was avoiding the military and deliberately not fighting for the credit. Tang Zheng smiled faintly. "I am a person who likes freedom. I just want to experience the life of the military camp. If I want to go deep into it and truly become a member, I can't stand those restrictions." Feng Xinyang's eyes lit up. He was not stingy with his praise, and said, "Good job. In this world, it is good to live freely. If you put so many shackles on yourself, wouldn't you be tired to death? Look, I'm not as happy as I am in the ordinary balance. It's all because of this environment." Yi Tianlei sighed and said, "In this world, there are always many things that don't go your way. How can everything go your way? Since you don't like the life of the military, then live according to your own way in the future." "Dad, Feng Xinyang, we encountered something today," Yi Dingdang said seriously. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang looked at their daughter in surprise. It was rare to see such a serious expression on her face, so they hurriedly asked, "What happened?" "Today, we had a conflict with Chu Xiaofeng. Tang Jing injured the other party and then killed an expert from their family called Raging Inferno." Chu Xiaofeng? Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang were not people like Yi Dingdang who did not pay attention to the outside world. They knew a lot about the complicated connections of the capital. "How did you get into a conflict with him?" Just as the two of them finished asking this question, they suddenly paused and exclaimed as if they had just woken up from a dream, "What did you say just now? You actually killed Raging Inferno?" Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang, who had experienced countless big scenes, were also shocked by this news. It was even more shocking than when they clashed with Chu Xiaofeng. Raging Inferno is a first-grade pre-celestial stage martial artist. How did you kill him? Yi Tianlei was also only at the first grade of the pre-celestial stage. He found it hard to believe that an expert of the same cultivation level as him had died at the hands of these two juniors. Looking at her parents' shocked expressions, Yi Dingdang could also feel their shock. Furthermore, after confirming Raging Inferno's cultivation from her parents, she became even more shocked. She quickly suppressed her emotions and corrected her, "I didn't kill him, it was Tang Zheng who killed him. Raging Inferno died at his hands alone." Immediately, Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang's expressions became even more shocked. They looked at Tang Zheng as if they had seen a ghost, as if they wanted to cut him open and study how he did it. Yi Dingdang was very satisfied with this effect. She turned her head and looked at Tang Zheng, her big eyes filled with little stars of worship. Tang Zheng was the creator of miracles. It seemed that anything impossible could happen to him. Tang Zheng laughed bitterly, "Uncle Yi, Aunt Feng, don't look at me like that, it makes me look like a monster. Actually, all of this was just a fluke." Feng Xinyang smacked her lips and said, "Little handsome brother, don't tell me you still don't admit that you're a monster? You've already done such an impossible thing. Tell me, what else can't you do?" This kind of praise made Tang Zheng not know whether to laugh or cry, and he was speechless. Yi Dingdang seemed to think that this kind of shock was not enough, and immediately added fuel to the fire. "Let me tell you, Raging Inferno did not last long under Tang Zheng's hands, and then turned into a ball of fire, and died." "What? He didn't last long, and he even turned into a ball of fire?" Even if Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang were to open their brains, they would not be able to imagine the scene. Wasn't Tang Zheng only at the fourth stage of the postnatal stage? Why did it sound like he was at the fourth stage of the postnatal stage? Moreover, how did a person turn into fire? Tang Zheng blushed with shame, and hurriedly said, "Don't listen to Dingdang's nonsense, I'm not that powerful, I only defeated him by chance. At that time, there was a barrel of oil in the stairwell, I splashed it on Raging Inferno's body, and then turned him into a flaming man." "Oil? Why don't I smell gasoline?" Yi Dingdang expressed her suspicion. This girl was really observant. It was so chaotic back then, but she still remembered this. Tang Zheng obviously would not back down, and continued, "You said that if I didn't use oil, how could I turn him into a flaming man? Could it be that I can spit fire?" Squeak squeak. Xiao Bai cried out in Tang Zheng's embrace and raised his claws, as if he wanted to say that he could breathe fire. Tang Zheng immediately pressed it down and looked at the three of them calmly. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang were not present, but they believed this explanation. Otherwise, they would not be able to explain this matter. Only Yi Dingdang, the person involved, was extremely suspicious, but she could not find any other reasonable explanation, so she could only believe this reason for the time being. Yi Tianlei looked at Tang Zheng seriously and said, "Little Tang, you are really lucky this time. That Raging Inferno is an expert who has been famous for a long time, and even if I were to fight against him, I might not have the confidence to defeat him. I'm afraid that only your Aunt Feng can easily defeat him, but he died in your hands. I dare say that your name will spread throughout the capital." "What, spread throughout the capital?" Tang Zheng was shocked. "You don't know what a pre-celestial expert means. Although there are many experts in the great families, pre-celestial experts are still as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. You casually killed a pre-celestial expert, it's hard for you not to be famous. Feng Xingyang joked, sigh, how many people want to be famous? I'm afraid that only your method can truly be called earth-shattering, soaring into the sky in one go. Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had never thought of becoming famous, he had only instinctively resisted. The raging inferno wanted to kill him, and if he did not kill the raging inferno, then he would have no way to live. Therefore, he fought back in order to survive. Yi Dingdong's eyes became brighter and brighter as he clapped his hands and shouted, good, if you want to be famous, you have to do it as soon as possible. Moreover, killing a pre-celestial expert is such an awe-inspiring thing. Feng Xingyang agreed, there are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the capital. Every year, there are many dragons that want to amaze the capital with a single brilliant feat. They want to attract the attention of all parties and strive for glory, splendor, and wealth. You are luckier than them and have accomplished what many of them can only dream of. Yi Tianlei nodded his head and said solemnly, however, becoming famous at a young age is a good thing, but there is also a bad side. After you become famous, you will definitely attract the attention of all parties, and in the future, you will not be able to live a peaceful life. As long as you are not recruited into a large power, there will be countless people looking for you, wanting to take you under their wing. Tang Jing rubbed his nose and laughed self-deprecatingly, looks like I'm in high demand. What's wrong with being in high demand? This is called being valuable. Other people can't even ask for it even if they want it. Yi Dingdang praised, what, aren't you happy to see you become famous? What's there to be happy about? I actually like to keep a low profile. Tisk, what's the use of keeping a low profile? Moreover, you're so dazzling, it's impossible to keep a low profile even if you want to. Yi Dingdang said with unconcealable excitement. Chapter 294. What Tang Jing didn't know was that when he was talking to Yi Tianlei and his wife, his name had spread to the ears of some people in the capital at a terrifying speed. Moreover, it was a fierce name. For a young man to kill a Xiantian lord who had been famous for a long time, just how shocking was that? It had been many years since such an explosive thing had happened in the capital. But who was Tang Jing? Why had they never heard of this name before? Could it be that he was a ferocious dragon that crossed the river? The answer was quickly revealed. This person was not some dragon that crossed the river, but a local snake. It turned out that he was the Ye family's future son-in-law, Yi Dingdang's fiancé. A few months ago, Yi Xuanji failed to break through to the master stage and almost went berserk. This was something that everyone knew. Many people were secretly watching the Ye family. As long as Yi Xuanji died, the Ye family's reputation would definitely plummet. They would probably fall from the throne of the four great families in the capital. Many new families were watching this matter closely and secretly worked for a long time. As long as Yi Xuanji died, they would work together to pull the Ye family down from their pedestal. But what made everyone surprised was that Yi Xuanji actually survived in the end, and not long after, he actually broke through to the master stage. This made the Ye family, which was originally in a precarious situation, regain its vitality. A master stage was enough to support such a large family, making other people not dare to act rashly. Many people were confused by this huge change, but without a doubt, Yi Xuanji must have obtained a great opportunity. But what this opportunity was, no one could figure it out. At the same time, some people also noticed that the Ye family originally wanted to marry the Song family. The two family heads had secretly agreed on this matter, but later on, the Ye family actually went back on their word. The girl, Yi Dingdang, actually had a fiancé. Many people were curious about who this fiancé was, to actually be able to make Yi Xuanji not hesitate to have a conflict with the Song family. But no matter how she investigated, this fiancé was very mysterious. But today, this mysterious fiancé finally made a grand appearance. Moreover, this way of entering the stage was truly unexpected, making one want to slap the table in praise. Killing a Xiantian master was an unimaginable matter. One must know that Xiantian masters were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns in every family. Moreover, they were the most powerful masters in the family. However, they were easily killed by a young man. Just how terrifying was this young man? No one dared to imagine. At this point, many people came to a realization. No wonder Yi Xuanji broke off the engagement with the Song family at all costs. No wonder Song Yu, one of the 4 young masters of Beijing, had been snatched by someone else. With such a strong competitor, even the 4 young masters of Beijing could do nothing. Some busybodies even suggested that this son-in-law of the Ya family who came out of nowhere was enough to compare to the so-called 4 young masters of Beijing. Even the high and mighty Yan Luyun in everyone's hearts was probably not as powerful as Tang Zheng. Immediately, it was as if a pot had exploded. Many people wanted to see this Ya family's son-in-law. They wanted to see if he really had 3 heads and 6 arms. How could he be so fierce? Of course, although the matter of Tang Zheng killing Raging Inferno was well known, and there were even witnesses, no one went to the police, and it was even more impossible for the police to get involved in this matter. This was a matter between the big families, so the police could cool off to the side. Tang Zheng did not know that his name had instantly overshadowed the 4 young masters of Beijing. At this moment, he was very vexed. He had always wanted to keep a low profile, and then silently increase his strength to deal with the possible pursuit of the martial sect in the future. But this time, his plan was completely disrupted, and he was exposed to the spotlight. Yi Tianlei saw through his worry and advised, "Little Tang, it's impossible for you to keep a low profile. People with ability will eventually shine brightly. Furthermore, since Wu has lost his memories, then the martial sect will not come looking for trouble with you for the time being." Tang Zheng sighed. It seemed that this was the only way. Dong dong. There was a knock on the door, and a voice called out from outside, "Second master, the old man has invited you over." "All right, we'll go now." Yi Tianlei stood up. "Little Tang, come with us. Since we have sat down on this matter, and Ding Dang is also involved, this matter should be handled by the Ya family. Don't worry, if the Chu family wants to take revenge, I will definitely not stand by and watch. Yes, little handsome brother, with us supporting you, you don't have to be afraid." Feng Xinyang guaranteed. Tang Zheng glanced at Yi Dingdang, and said, "Uncle Yi, and Feng, actually, this matter has already brought the Ya family in. Don't blame Dingdang, she did it all to save me." Yi Tianlei and his wife were shocked. As they walked, they asked about the details of the incident. When they heard Yi Dingdang announce that Tang Zheng was her fiancé, Yi Tianlei was shocked. He obviously understood what this meant. This meant that the Ya family had to protect Tang Zheng. If he jumped out at this time and said that Tang Zheng was not Yi Dingdang's fiancé, others would think that the Ya family was a coward. Therefore, Yi Dingdang's move of acting first and reporting later sealed all the Ya family's escape routes. However, in this way, Tang Zheng was tied to the Ya family. As for who took advantage of it, Yi Tianlei was not clear. After all, Tang Zheng had a master at the master stage behind him. Feng Xinyang's eyes lit up, and she looked at her daughter with joy. This girl was really enlightened. She even knew this move. Tomorrow, wouldn't the whole capital know that Tang Zheng was the Ya family's son-in-law? Hee, little handsome brother, if you don't want to be the heartless Chen Shimi, then you have to be together with our family's Ding Dang. The more Feng Xinyang looked at Yi Ding Dang, the more she liked her. This girl finally had the demeanor of her mother back then. In the future, she would have to nurture her well, deepen her foundation, and firmly hold the little handsome brother in her hands. When the few of them walked into Yi Xuanji's room, they found that Yi Xuanji was sitting on a chair with his eyes closed. When he heard the few of them enter, he suddenly opened his eyes, and his bright gaze immediately fell on Tang Zheng. The last time they met, Yi Xuanji had already decided to acquiesce to the matter between Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang. However, he did not expect that in just a month, this brat would cause such a huge commotion again. Killing a Xiantian realm cultivator, this move was too fierce, causing Yi Xuanji to almost think that he had misheard. After confirming it again and again, he could not help but have mixed feelings. Back then, when he was at Tang Zheng's age, and had the support and care of his family, he did not do such an earth-shattering feat like Tang Zheng. However, when he thought about how Tang Zheng did not even put him, the head of the Ye family, in his eyes when he was in the ordinary balance, Yi Xuanji felt that all of this was actually not that surprising. Because, in the end, this brat was this kind of person, all the influential people in front of him were like chickens and pottery dogs, and would not make him have much respect at all. Of course, what shocked him even more was that Yi Dingdang publicly announced Tang Zheng's identity as the Ye family's son-in-law. Just this sentence alone was enough to entangle the Ye family, tying the Ye family and Tang Zheng together. Yi Xuanji glanced at his granddaughter. Ever since Yi Dingdang returned to the capital, this pair of grandfather and grandson had truly come into contact with each other and understood each other. Yi Xuanji gradually realized that Yi Dingdang's unyielding character was much more pleasing to the eye than Yi Meiyu's. Although Yi Meiyu had pretended to be a filial granddaughter in front of Yi Xuanji, how could the things that happened outside escape Yi Xuanji's eyes and ears? Therefore, although Yi Xuanji did not change his opinion of Yi Dingdang on the surface, he was paying more and more attention to this granddaughter of his. Even if Yi Dingdang took the initiative to pull the Ye family into the vortex, he did not immediately fly into a rage. "Father, you called us," Yi Tianlei said. Yi Xuanji pointed to the chairs at the side, and after the few of them sat down, he said in a deep voice, "I just heard that Tang Zheng had a conflict with that brat from the Chu family, and killed Raging Inferno?" Yi Tianlei's heart sank, so the old man had called them over for this matter. He could not see through the old man's thoughts, but he was prepared to argue for himself and protect Tang Zheng, so he quickly said, "Yes." "Dingdang, you told others that Tang Zheng is your fiancé?" Yi Dingdang raised her neck and said without hesitation, "That's right, didn't I tell you when we were at ordinary balance?" Yi Xuanji snorted coldly, and said, "How could your tricks from back then escape my eyes? This time, you used the same trick and brought the Ye family into trouble, did you know that?" Yi Dingdang curled her lips and said, "In any case, the Ye family is not afraid of trouble." Yi Tianlei was infuriated by Yi Dingdang's stubborn temper. Yi Tianlei immediately gave his daughter a look, and said, "Father, this matter is not entirely the fault of Dingdang. After all, Dingdang was also a victim at that time. If she did not reveal her identity, then this matter would be very difficult to resolve, and Dingdang might also be in danger." Feng Xinyang rolled her eyes and said, "Old master, I feel that the little handsome brother is pretty good. Moreover, this matter is the truth, and in the future, others will know about it. Instead of hiding it, it is better to say it openly like this." How could Yi Xuanji not understand Feng Xinyang's thoughts? She had long wanted to matchmake Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang, so she snorted heavily and said, "In short, this matter has made the Ye family very passive." Tang Zheng frowned, listening to Yi Xuanji's question, and said unhappily, "I can explain this matter to these people, and if it has nothing to do with the Ye family, then the Ye family will not suffer any losses." Yi Xuanji looked at him and said, "Do you think this matter will be as simple as you say? Since Dingdang announced your relationship to others, then this matter must be treated as true. From now on, you are really Dingdang's fiancé." "What?" Everyone was shocked, and Tang Zheng's jaw almost fell to the ground. He knew that Yi Xuanji had always been against Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang, but he never thought that he would agree to this matter so easily. The key point was that Tang Zheng had never thought of it this way. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang looked at each other, both of their eyebrows were filled with joy. The old man actually agreed, and Feng Xinyang was even more delighted. As long as the old man passed through, then this matter was set in stone. She looked at Tang Zheng more and more like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law, and the more she looked at him, the more satisfied she was. Yi Dingdang was shocked at first, then a look of joy gradually appeared in the depths of her eyes. She turned to look at Tang Zheng, only to discover that he had a dull look on his face. She could not help but curl her lips, and thought, "Humph, you've taken such a huge advantage of me, yet you're still not happy. Could it be that I'm really not as good as Feng Shishir?" Tang Zheng recovered from his shock and quickly said, "Absolutely not." Everyone was startled and shocked. Was this brat crazy? He actually said that he couldn't. Many young elites wanted to step into the Ya family. Even if it was Yi Meiyu, who had a bad reputation, there were still many people pursuing her. This brat actually rejected her good intentions. If Tian Chanzi was here, he would definitely want to punch him in the head. Such a good opportunity, and you still want to reject it? Do you want to die? You need an endless supply of pure yin energy. Yi Dingdang has a pure yin body, so wouldn't you be able to take her down? It was not that Tang Zheng was not afraid of death, but he already had a girlfriend. If he agreed to the Ya family, what would Fang Shishir do? Fang Shishir had only left for a short while, and he was already looking for a new lover. Wasn't this too much of a beast? Chapter 295. Tang Zheng said matter-of-factly, I already have a girlfriend. Yi Dingdang bit her lips and said, could it be that I'm not as good as Fang Shishir? Which part of me can't compare to her? This. You're really good. Tang Zheng said hesitantly. Yi Dingdang's conditions were indeed very good. Not only was she beautiful, her family background was illustrious, and she even had good martial arts skills. She was the princess that many people dreamed of. Then I'm good, why don't you agree? Yi Dingdang persistently asked. Tang Zheng was startled for a moment, looking at the trace of sadness in Yi Dingdang's eyes. His heart skipped a beat. This girl seemed to be different, this was not her style. Feng Ximyang looked at her daughter thoughtfully. As a woman, how could she not see through her daughter's thoughts? Unknowingly, Yi Dingdang had actually been moved by Tang Zheng. It seemed that what was originally a fake show had become a real show. Tang Zheng was speechless. Why didn't he agree? He didn't know either, but he had to admit that sometimes, he would have improper thoughts about Yi Dingdang, and the two of them had even shared a bed before. However, he still liked Fang Shishir in his heart. After all, the two of them had gone through many hardships together, experienced many things, and had a deep relationship with each other. Yi Xuanji frowned as he looked at Tang Zheng, and said, girls are just friends, we can just split them up. This matter is settled, wait for me to choose a good day, and I will hold an engagement party for you. Engagement party? Tang Zheng's head trembled, this was really forcing a duck onto a perch. In the past, he had only heard of forcefully snatching women, but now he was forcefully snatching men. Tang Zheng still wanted to argue, but was interrupted by someone. A person rushed in and shouted, grandfather, not good, Yi Dingdang is in big trouble. His voice suddenly stopped, because when the other party saw the people in the room, Yi Meiyu was startled, and her expression became extremely complicated. Making such a big fuss, where are your manners? What trouble did Dingdang cause? Yi Xuanji asked in a deep voice. Yi Meiyu glanced at Yi Tianlei and his wife, thinking that they must be here to beg grandfather for forgiveness. Luckily I came back quickly, otherwise they would have fooled me. The relationship that Yi Meiyu had built with great difficulty with Chu Xiaofeng was destroyed, how could she let it go? After thinking about it, she decided to take revenge. The best way to take revenge on Yi Dingdang was to attack Yi Tianlei's position in the Ya family, and in order to do this, he had to prick Ye's nerves. As a result, Yi Meiyu impatiently rushed back to report to Yi Xuanji about Yi Dingdang. Although everyone else was present, she was not afraid at all. Instead, she said righteously, grandfather, Dingdang and Tang Zheng just killed the people from the Chu family and injured Chu Xiaofeng. Furthermore, they even involved the Ya family in this matter. His heart was punishable. This accusation was too harsh. Yi Tianlei's face darkened. He was very clear that this niece of his was hostile towards his family, but he never thought that her intentions would be so sinister. Yi Tianlei wanted to flare up, but was stopped by Feng Ximyang. The old man had already made his decision on this matter. No matter how eloquent Yi Meiyu was, it was useless. On the contrary, the more powerful she was, the deeper the hole she dug for herself. Yi Dingdang was immersed in her complicated emotions and was not in the mood to pay attention to Yi Meiyu's accusations. Yi Meiyu looked at Yi Dingdong's appearance and became even more arrogant. She was secretly delighted, thinking that she must have been scolded by her grandfather just now, so she had to add fuel to the fire. However, Yi Meiyu did not notice that Yi Xuanji's gaze towards her was getting colder and colder. Seeing that she was about to continue chattering, he suddenly shouted, "Shut up, Meiyu, you have disappointed me too much." As a member of the Ye family, instead of thinking about how to solve the problem, you pushed Dingdang out, and even kept on framing her. Tell me, are you still a member of the Ye family? Ah. Yi Meiyu was shocked and dumbstruck. Why did her grandfather scold her and not blame Yi Dingdang? Wasn't this caused by Yi Dingdang? Scram back to your room. You are not allowed to take half a step out of the house for the next few days. Otherwise, I will break your legs. Yi Xuanji said angrily. Yi Meiyu's face was pale white. The old man had never scolded her like this before. Seeing him fly into a rage, she was puzzled and unreconciled. She glared at Yi Dingdang hatefully, then retreated out of the room. The family is unfortunate. Yi Xuanji coldly snorted, then looked deeply at Tang Zheng and said, "Tomorrow is old man Yan's 80th birthday. Your family will represent the Ye family to congratulate him. Tang Zheng will also go." Yi Tianlei's heart skipped a beat. Bringing Tang Zheng along meant that Tang Zheng would appear as the son-in-law of the Ye family. The Ye family would also receive a lot of attention because of this matter. These big families were not afraid of being noticed. On the contrary, the more attention they received in this circle, the more powerful they were. In fact, in the past few months, the Ye family had indeed been the focus of attention from all sides, and had earned a lot of attention. This time, because of the appearance of the mysterious son-in-law, Tang Zheng, they would definitely receive even more attention. Yes, father. Yi Tianlei agreed, and then brought the shocked Tang Zheng and his daughter out of the room. Uncle Yi, how can we do this? After the few of them had walked far away, Tang Zheng finally could not help but ask. Yi Tianlei laughed. Little Tang, look, the old man has already decided. You should also give him some face. This matter is already tied together with the Ye family. Go tomorrow, then you can study hard at Yenqing University. If not, you will be disturbed all day. You will also be very annoyed. Yi Tianlei was speaking the truth. If Tang Zheng continued to be mysterious and let others guess, even if he hid in the university, he would not be able to live a peaceful life. And if he appeared tomorrow, he could satisfy the curiosity of all forces, and let him truly be tied together with the Ye family. Those who wanted to recruit him would give up, because he was already a member of the Ye family. It was already impossible for others to touch him. Tang Zheng was silent. He had to admit that Yi Tianlei was right. Moreover, these words were said. If he were to publicly deny it, not only would it be disadvantageous to him, but it would also embarrass the Ye family. He was not a selfish person, although he did not like Yi Tianlei. After all, Yi Tianlei was a member of the Ye family. If the Ye family's reputation was damaged, then he, Yi Tianlei, would also suffer a loss. He could not bear it. In addition, the most important point was Yi Dingdang. If he stood up and clarified that he had nothing to do with Yi Dingdang, most people would not believe it, but there would also be many people who would gloat and watch a good show. For example, if a girl claimed that another person was her fiancé, but the next day the man clarified that he had nothing to do with her, how hurtful would that be? What would others think of her in the future? Tang Zheng glanced at Yi Dingdang, who did not say a word, and thought to himself, it seems that this matter can only be delayed. Wait for a bit more time, wait for people to gradually forget, then naturally no one will pay attention to him and Yi Dingdang. Seeing that Tang Zheng had tacitly agreed to tomorrow's arrangement, Yi Xuanji breathed a sigh of relief. Feng Xinyang beamed, and said, Dingdang, bring Tang Zheng to the guest room. He will stay at our house tonight, and tomorrow we will go together to celebrate the birthday of the Yan family's old man. Yi Dingdang nodded, and brought Tang Zheng to the guest room. Looking at the backs of the two people, Yi Tianlei said worriedly, do you think this matter will work? Feng Xinyang raised her eyebrows, and said confidently, of course it will work. What kind of person is our family's girl? How could she lose to the Feng family's girl? Moreover, the Feng family's girl is abroad. The pavilion closest to the water gets the moon first. Little handsome brother, this moon will definitely be plucked in the hands of Dingdang. But, my ding-dang is really in love. Yi Tianlei sighed, a grown girl cannot be kept at home, this day has finally come. Feng Xinyang chuckled and said, can't bear to part with your daughter? This day will come sooner or later, what are you sighing for? Moreover, it's good that your daughter is in love, it's not like you don't know our family's girl's character, if you don't like her, even if you put a knife to her neck, she won't do it, but if she really likes you, then she will definitely chase you, this is similar to me, daring to love and daring to hate, as expected of my, Feng Xinyang's daughter. Feng Xinyang indeed understood her daughter very well. After Yi Dingdang and Tang Zheng came to the guest room, she stared straight at Tang Zheng, and said resolutely, Tang Zheng, let me tell you, no matter what you think in your heart, I will tell you now what I think. From this moment on, I solemnly announce to you that I want to chase you. What, you want to chase me? Tang Zheng was forced into a corner by Yi Dingdang, and looked at her in shock. Yes, I don't know when it started, but I've already fallen in love with you. If I like something, I will definitely not let go. I will snatch it away. Yi Dingdang gritted her teeth and said. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Am I that charming? Didn't you hate me in the past? That was in the past. The past doesn't count. Besides, I still have a bet with you. I feel that my cultivation can't surpass yours, so I have no choice but to marry you in this life. Otherwise, I will never marry. Looking at her aggressive gaze, Tang Zheng felt a lot of pressure. Even when he was facing the raging inferno, he did not feel this much pressure. He could not help but feel a headache coming on, not knowing what to do. I don't need you to answer me now. In short, I will definitely catch up to you in these 4 years of university. If you take a step back, I will take 2 steps forward. I don't believe that I, Yi Dingdang, won't be able to catch up to the person I like. Yi Dingdang's face was filled with determination. In fact, if she did not go through this incident, she would have chosen a gradual and silent method. However, Tang Zheng had rejected her in front of her entire family, completely remembering her competitive nature. She was originally a competitive person. Since you, Tang Zheng, rejected me, then I will do the opposite. I will pursue you with great fanfare. Let's see what you can do. Tang Zheng did not expect such a result, but looking at the determination in her eyes, his heart could not help but soften. It was hard for him to imagine how much courage it would take for a girl to confess so righteously. Ding-dang, you also know that I have a girlfriend. Let me make it clear first, I will not give up on Shishir. Tang Zheng felt that he had to make his attitude clear first. Yi Ding-dang bit her lips, and her rosy lips gradually turned white. She took a deep breath and said, who knows what will happen in the future? I only know one thing, and that is that I will definitely make you accept me. Sleep well, tomorrow we will go to the birthday banquet together. Perform well, Yi Dingdang's man must have an indomitable aura. Tomorrow, I will let the whole world see how different my Yi Dingdang's man is. With that, she left without looking back. Xiao Bai crawled out of Tang Zheng's embrace with both hands covering his eyes, looking very shy. Seeing that Yi Dingdang had left, he released his claws and squeaked, as if he was giggling. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. He knocked on his head and said, what are you laughing at? Can't you see that your master is in a terrible fix? The ancients say that it is difficult to erase a beauty's grace, and they are not lying to me. Xiao Bai rolled his eyes. You took advantage of me and you still want to pretend to be obedient. Chapter 296. The next day, Tang Zheng wore a tailored suit and stood in front of the Ya family. Feng Xinyang specially asked someone to tailor the suit for him. Feng Xinyang looked him up and down and clicked her tongue in praise. Not bad, you are indeed becoming more and more handsome. When you stand together with our family's Ding-dang, you are a perfect match. After Yi Ding-dang declared her pursuit to Tang Zheng, she became natural and unrestrained, without the slightest bit of the affectation of a little girl. Hearing her mother's praise, she nodded in agreement, not bad indeed, much more handsome than usual. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and of course, Pannan is also in the eye of the beholder. Now, Yi Dingdang was looking at Tang Jing more and more pleasing to the eye. Tang Jing felt a little happy in his heart. Even though he did not sleep well last night because of Yi Dingdang's meddling, he was still full of energy with the divine technique protecting his body. Let's go, let's go. Yi Tianlei said. The few of them sat in a long luxury car with a special driver, and then went straight to the destination of today's banquet, Longxiang Mountain. This was a small mountain in the suburbs of Beijing. It was not very big and was not open to the public. It was the private place of the Yan family. The autumn air was cool, the dust was dyed, and the mountain was covered in red. The luxury car drove on the wide mountain road, giving people a feeling of strolling children. Beautiful. At the end of the mountain road was a big iron gate. The iron gate was carved with exquisite patterns, like a work of art. On both sides of the iron gate were two huge stone lions, tall and mighty, showing the imposing manner of this family. Tang Jing could not help but sigh. This was the real feeling of a family, making people feel awe. On both sides of the gate, there were 2 rows of people welcoming the guests. One row of men, with an imposing appearance, and the other row of women, with a beautiful appearance. If Yi Tianlei had not introduced them as servants, Tang Zheng would have thought that they were the young master and daughter of the Yan family. Tang Zheng was secretly shocked. The background of this kind of big family was really incomparable. There were so many people who became rich overnight, but they were only the nouveau riche. Compared to this kind of big family with 100 years of history, it was like the difference between a firefly and the sun. Compared to the Yan family, the Ye family seemed to be dwarfed. Yi Tianlei seemed to have seen through Tang Zheng's thoughts and explained, the Yan family is the most powerful of the 4 big families in Beijing. They have 2 masters. 2 masters. Tang Zheng was shocked. Yes, the other families only have 1 master. The Ye family also only has 1 master after the old man broke through. But the Yan family is different. Not only is the old man of the Yan family behind the scenes a master, even the current head of the family, Yan Qishan, has also broken through to the master realm. So powerful, then how old is this Yan Qishan? Tang Jing curiously asked. Next year he will be 50. Yi Tianlei said as he stretched out 5 fingers. He is only 40 years old and he has already reached the master realm? Tang Zheng was shocked. The master realm was not like the Xiantian masters who could easily break through as long as they accumulated enough strength. Instead, it required luck. Yi Xuanji had accumulated strength for dozens of years and barely touched the door of the master realm. But in the end, because he did not have any luck, he fell short of success. If not for Tang Jing using the life-continuing pill to save him, he would have already become a soul. Yi Tianlei helplessly smiled bitterly and said, yes, it is unimaginable, but Yan Qishan did it. Like father, like son. His son, Yan Luyun, is the head of the 4 young masters of Beijing. He is only 20 years old, but he has already touched the door of the Xiantian realm. Xiantian realm. Tang Zheng's head moved and he could not help but think of Wu. She was from the martial organization and was only 20 years old, but she had already reached the Xiantian realm. So compared to her, Yan Luyun was slightly inferior. What he did not know was that Yan Luyun was not like Wu, who did not have anything to do every day. The only thing he did was to cultivate. Yan Luyun was in such a large family. He had many businesses to manage and many social events. Since he was young, he did not have much time to cultivate. But he had already reached the Xiantian realm. This was enough to show how high his martial arts talent was. Today you will definitely see Yan Luyun. You are all young people, so you should interact with him more. Yi Tianlei warned. Yes, Uncle Yi. I will act according to the circumstances. Tang Jing replied in a deep voice. Don't be so rigid. Yan Luyun only has 2 eyes and 1 mouth. There is nothing strange about it. Yi Dingdang curled her lips and said disapprovingly. Feng Xinyang advised, Dingdang, in the past you were outstanding in the ordinary balance. But in the capital, there are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Your ability is not that great. If you do not work harder in the future, you will be left behind even further. I have the Jade Women's Heart Sutra, so I am not worried. I believe that I will definitely be able to catch up to him. Yi Dingdang waved her fist and said confidently. Feng Xinyang praised, you are truly worthy of being my, Feng Xinyang's, daughter. You should have this kind of drive. Moreover, I believe that Tang Zheng will definitely surpass Yan Luyun in the future. Yi Dingdang did not forget to add. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang looked at Tang Zheng and imagined his terrifying cultivation speed. It was indeed very possible for him to surpass Yan Luyun. The Ye family's car did not stop at the entrance. Instead, it drove into the large villa and finally stopped in front of an ancient wooden building. This wooden building was grand and imposing. It had already been there for many years. There were many people standing in front of the building. Tang Zheng immediately saw two people among them. These two people had similar eyebrows. They both had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. They looked very talented. However, one was a mature middle-aged man and the other was a 20-year-old youth. Those two are Yan Qishan and Yan Luyun? Tang Zheng asked curiously. It is this pair of father and son. Yi Tianlei lightly said. Then the driver ran out of the car and opened the door. The four of them got out of the car. The beautiful scenery in front of them entered their eyes. This villa was a combination of the mountain and the manor. It was definitely the work of a master architect. However, this grand and imposing villa was not as attractive as this pair of father and son in front of them. Yan Qishan laughed loudly. He quickly walked towards Yi Tianlei and said, Tianlei, it has been many years since we last met. The two of them shook hands, appearing very intimate. Yi Tianlei also laughed. Yes, Qishan, it has been almost 20 years since we last met. Time passes so quickly. However, back then, I believed that you would definitely return. Because, in the end, you still belong to the capital. Yan Qishan's voice became deep as he spoke from the bottom of his heart. Yi Tianlei was a bit emotional. He said, thank you. Back then, these two were very close. However, after Yi Tianlei was banished to ordinary balance by the Ye family, their relationship gradually weakened. Now that they met with old friends, they naturally felt very close. In the blink of an eye, so many years have passed. We are all old. Now it is the world of the young. This is my family's kid. When you left back then, he was just starting to walk. Yan Qishan patted Yan Luyun's shoulder and introduced him. Yi Tianlei looked at Yan Luyun with a smile. He said, you really are a talent. The little mischievous boy from back then has already grown up. Uncle Yi, in the future, I will have to ask you to give your nephew a few pointers. Yan Luyun said humbly. Yi Tianlei shook his head and said, Luyun, I do not dare to give you pointers. In these years, your reputation has become more and more famous. Everyone has seen it. Even I, as your uncle, am ashamed of my inferiority. Uncle Yi is too kind. Your nephew still has many areas that require Uncle Ye's pointers. This must be Dingdang. She is already so old. I heard that she is now studying at Yenqing University. Yan Qishan's gaze landed on Yi Dingdang. Feng Xinyang, Dingdang has inherited your beauty. In a few years, she will definitely become the most beautiful girl in the capital. Feng Xinyang smiled faintly. Qishan, you flatter me. This girl is very mischievous. She always causes trouble for me. It is a good thing that young people are energetic. If they were as dull as us old fellows, then life would be truly boring. Yan Qishan said. Yan Luyun also looked at Yi Dingdang. He did not hide the admiration in his eyes. However, his eyes were filled with pure admiration and praise. There were no messy desires. Ding Dang is also studying at Yenching University? Then I can be considered your senior. I graduated from Yenching University 5 years ago. Yen Luyun said with a smile. Yi Ding Dang obediently opened her eyes wide. She said in surprise, senior must have dominated Yenching University back then. I was young and impetuous. I was just fooling around. This is... In the end, Yan Qishan placed his attention on Tang Zheng. If it was not for the fact that he was dressed differently, others would have thought that he was a follower of the Ye family. The main reason was that his aura was too ordinary. He did not have the valiant and domineering aura. He was so ordinary that it was easy for people to overlook his existence. This was done on purpose by Tang Zheng. Today, there were many experts gathered. It was better to keep a low profile. Moreover, others could not see through his cultivation. He really was like an ordinary person. This is Dingdang's fiancé, Tang Zheng. Yi Tianlei introduced. Since this time, Tang Zheng appeared as Yi Dingdang's fiancé. Of course he would not hide anything. Instead, he introduced him generously. Oh, it's you. The father and son of the Yen family were both a little surprised. They couldn't help but size up Tang Zheng carefully. Yan Qishan was extremely shocked, and thought to himself, I actually can't see through his cultivation, he must have some secret technique to intentionally hide it. He killed the Chu family's raging inferno yesterday, so he is at least a pre-celestial stage expert. Tisk, interesting, the Ye family actually found such a powerful son-in-law. Yen Liuyun's shock was no less than his father's. After he heard about the death of the raging inferno yesterday, he was both surprised and suspicious. He was only at the 9th stage of the post-celestial stage, and could already be considered the most powerful person in the younger generation of the various large families in the capital. However, an even more monstrous person suddenly appeared, causing him to be unable to help but look at him in a different light. Tianlei, you've really found a good son-in-law. In just a day, his name has already spread throughout the capital. Who knows how many people are asking about him? Yan Qishan sighed. Yi Tianlei said in a deep voice, this time, we really had no choice. If it wasn't for that brat from the Yen family forcing us, little Tang wouldn't have killed Raging Inferno. So what if he's killed? What's there to be surprised about? Yan Qishan said without a care. This is called the Yangtze River, the waves behind drive the waves before, and the waves in front die on the beach. Your son-in-law's waves are really fierce. Lu Yun, look at Tang Zheng, he's not surprised by anything. This is the true demeanor. Learn more from him in the future. Yen Luyun was not angry at his father's words in the slightest. Instead, he looked convinced and nodded. Father is right, Tang Zheng, in the future, we will all be in the capital, please give us more advice. Tang Zheng had been observing this father and son pair the entire time. From their words and actions, he could tell that they were really well educated and could not find a single flaw in them. After hearing Yen Liuyun's humble words, he said without batting an eyelid, the two of you are too kind, I was just lucky by chance, I am far from being able to compare to young Master Yen. Calling me young Master Yen is too distant. I'm a few years older than you. If you don't mind, calling me Big Brother Yen is what I like to hear the most. Yen Luyun said straightforwardly, that kind of cordiality made people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. Right, the two of you should get closer. Yan Qishan warned. Chapter 297. After exchanging greetings for a while, Tang Zheng addressed him as Big Brother Yen. One had to know that this form of address was enough to make many people envious. Because this meant that Tang Zheng had entered the eyes of the Yen family. For someone who had just arrived in the capital, this was very difficult to come by. Yen Luyun accompanied the few people into the wooden building. There were already many guests inside. Not only were there business people here, but there were also people from the political world. Tang Zheng saw a few big shots who often appeared on TV. Obviously, the level of this circle was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. However, Tang Zheng's state of mind was very calm. There was not the slightest ripple. No matter how much money or power the other party had, to him, there was not much difference between them and a passerby. Yan Luyun had been observing Tang Zheng. He saw that his expression did not change. It was as if he was a person who was used to dealing with this kind of situation. However, he knew that Tang Zheng's previous identity was actually very simple. He did not have the experience to deal with this kind of situation. This was enough to show that he was not simple. This brother Tang is really not ordinary. Yan Luyun sighed with emotion. There is such a powerful person in the capital, and he is the son-in-law of the Ya family. The days ahead will definitely be more and more exciting. When the others saw Yan Luyun personally accompanying the few people into the building, they were very surprised. Many people who did not know Yi Tianlei guessed who they were. They actually had the Yan family's young master personally accompany them. After all, Yi Tianlei had been away from the capital for too many years. Although he had appeared in a few occasions in the past few months, it did not mean that everyone knew him. Everyone whispered. After a while, they figured out Yi Tianlei's identity. Suddenly, they realized that the Ya family had arrived. But when they thought of the rumors from back then, everyone's thoughts started to turn. Although it seemed that Yi Tianlei and Yan Qishan were having a good chat and were very close friends when they were young, the Yan and Yi families were not as friendly and harmonious as they seemed on the surface. The Yan family was powerful, and their development in the past few years was even more rapid. On the other hand, the Ya family was gradually going downhill. If Yi Xuanji did not break through to the master level, then the Yan family would definitely not let go of the Ya family, this fat piece of meat. Because if this piece of meat was given to another family, that family's strength would increase greatly, and it would threaten the Yan family's ruling position. This was also the reason why Yi Xuanji did not hesitate to ally with the Song family through marriage. It was to resist the possible actions of the Yan family. However, this time, Yi Xuanji had mysteriously reached the master level, so the Yan family's strategy to deal with the Ya family had changed. This time, it was the Yan family's grandfather's birthday. The Yan family even personally sent an invitation to the Ya family. Yi Xuanji understood the reason very well. The Yan family wanted to use this birthday to ease the conflict between them and the Ya family. Yi Xuanji did not object, and even sent Yi Tianlei to personally attend. This already explained his intentions. The two families were still in a competitive relationship, but because of Yi Xuanji's breakthrough, it was no longer a life and death situation, but a delicate balance. Those who were observant naturally figured out the intention of this, and could not help but think in their hearts. If the conflict between the Ya family and the Yan family was eased, then their relationship with the Song family would definitely become tense. And where would the Chu family, who had always been on good terms with the Yan family, go? In fact, the Chu family's strength was on par with the Ya family. In the past, it was because of their close relationship with the Yan family that no one could shake the Chu family's position. This time, the Ya family's performance was so eye-catching, and the Ya family's son-in-law even killed a Xiantian master of the Chu family. How would the Ya family and the Chu family end? Everyone looked like they were waiting to watch a good show, especially many of their gazes landed on Tang Zheng. Because Tang Zheng's identity was already obvious, everyone was sizing up this future son-in-law of the Ya family. Where did this kid come from? How could he be so ridiculously powerful? Yi Tianlei did not stay idle either. He brought the Ya family and introduced them to a few people who were on good terms with the Ya family. Tang Zheng undoubtedly became the focus of attention. Seeing that he handled things with ease and was neither servile nor overbearing, everyone secretly nodded. The son-in-law chosen by the Ya family was really a dragon among men. It was really strange that they had never heard of him before. After a while, a few more people came in through the door. Everyone hurriedly looked over and greeted them. Yan Luyun also quickly stepped forward to welcome them. "Uncle Song, please come in." The people who came in were from the Song family of the four great families. Two of them happened to be acquaintances of Tang Zheng, Song Yu and Qin Lao. Yi Tianlei also saw the people of the Song family. He walked over to them unhurriedly. Although there was a rift between the Song family and the Yi family because of the marriage, they were still relatively close on the surface. Hanjun. Yi Tianlei called out loudly. The leader of the Song family, Song Yu's father, Song Hanjun, replied to Yi Tianlei, "Tianlei, you came earlier than me." This sentence had a deep meaning. It seemed to be saying that the Ye family was preparing to get closer to the Yan family. Yi Tianlei heard the implied meaning, but did not directly respond. Instead, he smiled and said, "The air in the city is not good. The Longxiang mountain is high and the air is fresh, so I came out early to breathe in the fresh air." Song Hanjun smiled meaningfully. His gaze fell on Tang Zheng and said, "Presumably, this is the son-in-law you chose?" "Humph, he is really a talent." This sentence was obviously sarcastic. No matter how Tang Zheng dressed up, in terms of appearance, he was indeed not Song Yu's opponent. The Ye family chose Tang Zheng and gave up Song Yu. How could Song Hanjun not be angry about this? Perhaps he was one of the people present who hated Tang Zheng the most. However, as an elder, if he were to target a younger generation, then he would appear to be too inferior. Hanjun has discerning eyes. This is indeed Ding Dong's fiancé. Yi Tianlei acted as if he did not hear the ridicule and said naturally and generously. Feng Xinyang's eyebrows jumped, but he did not act out. Tang Zheng was indeed the calmest. He would not be affected by the other's words. Suddenly, a soft little hand appeared in his hand. Yi Dingdang actually held his hand, as if announcing their relationship to Song Yu. Song Yu looked at the two's tightly clasped hands and said meaningfully, "Tang Zheng, when I first saw you at Ordinary Balance's residence, I knew you were not an ordinary person. You really gave me a big surprise." When he was at Ordinary Balance, Song Yu could be sure that Yi Dingdang and Tang Zheng's so-called relationship was just to deal with him. There was actually not much of a real relationship between the two. However, it was different now. Since the Ye family had announced it, then even if there was no relationship between the two, there would still be a relationship. Therefore, he, Song Yu, was really defeated by Tang Zheng. In fact, from the beginning, Song Yu did not have strong feelings for Yi Dingdang. He knew that his marriage would definitely be arranged by his family since he was young, so he did not reject the marriage with Yi Dingdang. After he met Yi Dingdang, unknowingly, he actually began to admire and like her. After he left Ordinary Balance, this feeling was abnormally strong. However, Yi Xuanji later cancelled the engagement, which made him draw water with a bamboo basket. This shattered his beautiful dream. In fact, if it was not for the Ye family announcing Tang Zheng's identity, Song Yu would not have much hostility towards Tang Zheng. After all, Song Yu could be sure that the relationship between the two was just a joke when he was at Ordinary Balance. However, this time it was real, which meant that he was defeated by Tang Zheng. This made him, the young master of the Song family, shocked and angry. In the past few days, he had already heard a lot of rumors. After all, Song Yu was defeated by an unknown Tang Zheng. This kind of thing was too worth gossiping about. Some of the playboys who did not have a good relationship with Song Yu were even fanning the flames to ridicule him, making Song Yu hold back a burst of anger in his heart. He could not help but regret. When he was at Ordinary Balance, Qin Lao had proposed to deal with Tang Zheng, but he had rejected it. He thought that Tang Zheng was insignificant, and had even thought of taking Tang Zheng under his wing, so he showed goodwill in Ordinary Balance's courtyard. He never thought that things would turn out like this. Perhaps if time went back, he would have made a different decision. Song Yu's heart flashed with many complicated thoughts, but his expression did not change. Instead, he looked at Tang Zheng with a faint smile. Tang Zheng calmly said, "I still have to thank young Master Song for choosing the jade for me. It's nothing. Do you know what I like the most? I like to see a piece of unpolished jade shine with extraordinary splendor after being carved. In this world, unpolished jade is extremely rare, and those that can shine with extraordinary splendor are even rarer. But in the end, those that can truly withstand the test of time and wind and frost are few and far between. Those so-called unpolished jade that disappear in the long river of history only have an instant of youthful splendor before being forgotten. Song Yu lightly said. But these words were too meaningful. Everyone here was smart, so they immediately understood the meaning behind these words. It seemed that the father and son of the Song family liked this kind of thing. Tang Jing faintly smiled. Of course, he understood that the so-called unpolished jade was him. Song Yu was saying that he, this piece of unpolished jade, would be thrown into the smelly ditch of history. Only Song Yu would leave his name in history. Pay. Tang Jing originally had a good impression of Song Yu, but after hearing these words, the good impression disappeared. He said, "Young Master Song's words are very true, but I have always thought that jade is too delicate and can't withstand the wind and rain. But no matter the wind and rain, a stone can stand without falling. So I like stone more. In fact, I am also like a stone." Tang Zheng's counterattack was very simple. It made everyone's eyes light up, but it made Song Yu immediately frown. It also made Song Hanjuan's eyes reveal a murderous intent. In particular, Qin Lao's eyes turned cold, like a sharp sword light shooting out. If it wasn't for the fact that this was the Yen family, he would have already made a move. When Qin Lao saw Tang Zheng's heaven-flying immortal swordsmanship in ordinary balance, he was shocked. He guessed that there must be a swordsman master behind Tang Zheng. This master could even be compared to the sword god, so he was worried that such an expert would be disadvantageous to Song Yu, so he left ordinary balance with Song Yu that night. Later on, he had searched everywhere to see if there was such a swordsman master, but he didn't find any clues at all. Moreover, there was no doubt that Tang Zheng was not the successor of the sword god, so his origin was especially mysterious. Originally, he thought that he wouldn't have any contact with Tang Zheng, but this time, Tang Zheng actually came to Beijing and humiliated Song Yu in front of everyone in Beijing. This made Qin Lao very angry. He couldn't wait to take Tang Zheng's life. The atmosphere became very delicate. Tang Zheng and Song Yu looked at each other. Yi Dingdang held Tang Zheng's hand tightly. She knew that she had pushed Tang Zheng into this whirlpool, so she could only hold his hand and give him strength. However, she was full of confidence in Tang Zheng. No matter how big the danger was, she believed that Tang Zheng could deal with it. Everyone looked at this scene at the same time. As the saying goes, when love rivals meet, their eyes turn red. These two love rivals' words were full of sarcasm. How were they going to end this? Whoosh! Chapter 298. This palm was out of everyone's expectations. No one would have thought that there would be someone who would dare to make a move in the Yen family. One had to know that this was the birthday of the Yen family's old man. Therefore, when the palm arrived in front of Tang Zheng, the others finally reacted. However, Tang Zheng's reaction was very fast. Although he was in the Yen family, he still maintained sufficient vigilance. Thus, he quickly extended his palm, channeled all of his innate qi into his palm, and fiercely swung it out. Bang! A thunderous sound rang out as Tang Zheng was sent flying backwards. Luckily, Yi Tianlei's reaction was not slow as he quickly blocked Tang Zheng's back. Both of his palms pressed against Tang Zheng's back, stopping him from retreating. Puff! A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Tang Zheng's mouth, and pain flashed across his eyes. This attack was truly unbearable, causing his mind to tremble, his innate qi to churn, especially his pure yang energy, which was even more violent, as if a volcano was about to erupt. He furiously looked at the person who had launched the sneak attack. It was a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He looked dignified without being angry, and it was obvious that he had an extraordinary status. In her eyes, Feng Xinyang was plain and unremarkable, as if she was born with this knowledge. Many things that ordinary people thought were complicated were very simple in her eyes. She was a genius, but this genius found that she could not understand Tang Zheng at all. This was 10 times, something that would never happen to other people. Even if her father had a high position, she could still see through him. This meant that Tang Zheng was even more mysterious than Yen Padian. In fact, it was precisely because she was too smart that she had seen through this world that she felt that this world was boring. That was why she had resolutely decided to become a monk. Hearing Yen Potion's advice, Tang Zheng's expression did not change much, and said calmly, "Thank you for Elder Yan's good intentions, but I have already made up my mind, and will not change it." The King of Medicine shook his head and laughed bitterly. "Little friend Tang Zheng and I do not have the fate of being master and disciple, but to be able to meet you in this life and see some miracles that I have never thought of, I have no regrets in this life." Miracle? What miracle? Everyone was very curious, but if the King of Medicine did not say anything, no one would ask. Even though Yen Padian had a stomach full of questions, he did not ask. Yi Tianlei's family looked at each other. Of course they knew that miracle. It was the miracle created by the life-continuing pill. However, Tang Zheng had agreed beforehand that the person involved could not reveal this matter to others, so it was inconvenient for them to announce it to the public. However, without a doubt, due to the appearance of the Medicine King, the mysterious halo around Tang Zheng's body had increased by a few points. Without a doubt, he had become the focus of attention today, and even Yen Padian, the old man, was probably inferior to him. Tang Zheng's appearance this time was extremely successful, almost blinding everyone's eyes. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.